There we go. I have it on good authority that our audio is working, but I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait for a moment to see. Let me know if y'all can hear me out there. Congratulations. Congratulations, one and all those of you that have chosen to join us in this now moment, as well as all those of you who will be finding this broadcast in the future. And it would be funny finding this one in the future because you'll be like, what? It's almost irrelevant now. But for us in the now moment, and what is it? The very last day of 2025. It's a big moment in time, right? I mean, sometimes, depending on your outlook or, your chosen set of kind of values. For some people, end of year is a huge one in general, every year. You know what I mean, right? It's like some people make it a big deal. Other people do the like, this New Year's Eve, I'll be at home in bed, which is literally usually me, like asleep by like 11. And then I hear a bunch of like gunshots and fireworks outside. And I'm like, oh, it's New Year. You know what I mean? And so, but this certainly feels like, I don't know about you guys. And okay, good. We do have audio capability. Looks like there's a healthy delay today, which is probably good because everybody in the world's probably online right now doing their own thing. But we stand at the threshold of a very, very transformational stage in the lives of each of us, especially those of us in what we might call, or within what we might call, the so-called spiritual community, intuitives, readers, if you want to use the word healers, which is kind of a dirty word on YouTube now, but all those of you that operate within the energetic realms, prepare yourselves for times in which you will be needed and called on more than ever before. Kind of like, I think we're allowed to say this word now during COVID. Remember that? Which for those of us that did this work, suddenly it's like things shift and, the world comes seeking answers. And so, for those of you guys out there that hear my voice and know what I'm talking about, prepare yourselves because 2026 is going to be a very formative year in kind of understanding where you've unconsciously placed yourself within the sort of collective of those who have chosen to be of use at this stage in the human journey. It's a very, very important time. So there's also going to be a whole new wave of people coming into, if you want to call it abilities or such, which for some people is still kind of a cringe thing to talk about, although it's very, very real. But anyway, thank you everybody for joining us. I just like flung the doors open and started ranting wildly, but that happens. I think it's because I just took a shower like prior to this. So I was like, I had all this water like flowing around me. And you go into like a little bit of a shower trance, right? And then somebody out there will understand this. And then I made the mistake of washing my hair, and then everything got, you know what I mean? Those days when you wash your hair and it just like puffs up in the worst ways. So, you know what I mean? It's like, ugh. But anyway, how's everybody doing out there? Let me know what part of the world you're in if you are able. Let's check on some of your comments here. But yes, the year is finally ending. Although somebody out there knows what somebody knows. Somebody knows the truth. The truth is nothing actually changes after midnight. It's all right. It's okay. You know what I mean? But I think we can definitely use it as a springboard for jumping off into new changes. Not that, historically they don't really last, which is why I don't really use the term, if you want to call it New Year's resolutions. It doesn't really work for me. But we are very definitively entering what we would call a very, very new cycle. And I've been saying this for the past couple weeks. If you feel like you are ending a cycle and beginning a new one, it's not really about this time of year, it's because you are. I mean, the time of year also signals out on a collective level, whether it be for those that follow dictated reality or for those that are creating the reality and somewhat, as they say, quote unquote, outside of the matrix, which is always such a weird term, right? What does that even mean? Does it mean you pop out of some pod and you're like, you have to pull that? Didn't they pull that tube out of their throat, when he comes out of the Matrix? For those of you guys that know, it's been a long time since I saw that movie. Anyway, we got some locations. Okay, there it is. What up, Tiffany Marie? We got San Antonio. Hey, you're not that far from us. We are out here in the wilds of Austin. But what's up, Queen Victor? Tuning in from the wilds of Scotland. Totally. Good to see you. Thank you for finding us on the other side of the on the other side of the world. It's good. It's good to see you. What's up, Anchor Haven? How's it going? Holland Sass is in Vegas. Oh my lord. Are you gonna have a crazy New Year's party? Are you attending some type of a New Year's event? New Year's events and holiday events in general for me are like anxiety attacks waiting to happen. Some would say, "What? Really? Yeah, really, there's so much weird energy there. What's up, Utah? Hey, what's going on?" I genuinely enjoyed every single time I've ever driven through Utah, all the way back to decades ago when I was on tour and playing music, all the way, up until now. Utah's always been a good place for me. Oh, Chicago. Okay, I feel you, man. It's probably freezing over there. Hello from California. I still have a lot of love for California. Don't ever don't get me wrong. I have a lot of love for LA, man. For real though. For real. What's up? Speaking of LA, Heidi Pop is like, woohoo, ex Chicago here, leaving Los Angeles. And yeah, totally. You're on the way out the door. Good luck with that. I mean, talk about timeline shifts, just because, we followed a little bit of your story. And I think, you've been talking about it publicly, but man, talk about a timeline shift there. That's a very, very bold move. I pray that it serves you well. I also, one of the observations that I think I've been making, I wouldn't call it like a prediction per se, but, just one of the things that I've been noticing about this time period in particular, especially like I was saying, for those that feel like you're closing a cycle and ending a new one. I think one of the things that's really important, and I might be wrong, because I'm not like really a forecasting type of intuitive. I mean, I can, and it's certainly a thing we can do. Is just I haven't really had a lot of personal interest in like, let's read the future because, and I'll tell you why. And I know a lot of you guys know this as well, because I used to say this phrase all the time. I don't really read futures because it's like we're constantly creating and destroying our futures every single day based upon your momentary decisions. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's going to happen in the future? Well, it depends. What choices are you making right now? But then we can see other big kind of like notable like jumping off points or corner turns or crossroads. I think that to me is a very reliable thing. I think other psychics that are much more astrological are going to have I would say a much greater advantage at future forecasting. But anyway, the reason why I was saying this in conjunction with I think your comment, Heidi, is that I think that we're at the stage where the bigger you're willing to leap, or it's like the farther you're willing to leap, the boldness through which you're willing to do that, it's like you will then receive an equally reciprocal amount of some form of energy or momentum, or, whatever the operative term is, push forward from the universe. You know what I mean? And then I think other people are going to get stuck in a transitional cycle right now, which sucks. That's a hard one to talk about because it always becomes very personal. But anyway, it's good. It's good to see everybody. White Swan says, "Am I the only Canuck here keeping keeping it? You might be. Maybe you are. You are the one and only Canadian here." Oh, I feel ya. What's up, K McMahon from Iowa? What's going on? How's it going? It's probably frozen there as well. It's probably frozen. I know Joanna LeBlanc's in Utah. That's a good sign. I hope you're doing well over there. So I guess I'll start and I'll sort of jump forward by saying what I said when we first entered in the room, and I really do mean this sincerely. Those of you guys that are in our Patreon group, you've already heard a lot of my ranting about this, but like, congratulations, seriously. The period of time that we have just lived through, and I'm going to keep it outside of measurements of years, I mean, because it just sounds, it's so tried and like of the moment. And like, outside of that, the period of time that we have all just lived through that we are marking with this day, I really believed it to be one of the most turbulent periods for internal and external change that I think the majority of us that watch this channel or that will hear my words have experienced in quite some time. I think it has been one of just the wildest rides. And once again, I'm not saying that in observance of the classic out with the old, in with the new bullshit. I'm just saying, like, dude, it was a crazy ride, right? And so because we're going into a new cycle, we're going to be doing a lot of readings today. I don't know how long. We're going to keep it to a reasonable, like a reasonable time period. But I also want to do some predictions with everyone. And it's not me giving the predictions, just so you know, it's not me. We're going to be doing it together here. For those of you guys that want to also let us know in the chat, I'm looking for, let's say, top 10 moments of 2025. These are chosen by you guys. I do have a couple. I do have a couple that I have chosen of my own. And they could be any moments. They could be any moments. We're not putting categories on anything. We're just saying we're doing generalized top 10 lists. And we could start out by saying, was there anything that you saw that you didn't see coming this year that really shocked you? Was there any sort of moments where you find yourself literally going, what the fuck? Was there moments in which you were frightened? I can tell you one of my top 10 moments is honestly, or just top 10 things that I've viewed and witnessed this year. I'm going to start with a cheesy one. And I don't know, we might even pull it up on X or Twitter if you're old, if you guys want to. But man, one of the things I really observed this year, we all did, it was like the exponential AI explosion. Like you know what I mean? The one where you're like, oh, that's really cool and like equally frightening. And I will say, the thing that really marked it for me in 2025, the thing that really hit for me in 2025 was not all the weird political animations they were doing. Somebody out there knows who what it was. It was that cat at the Ring camera, that series of videos that's been going around. I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna pull it up on X or Twitter if you're old. Let's find it as I click off my own screen. We're gonna bring it out. Hopefully it'll let me in. I haven't logged on in a really long time. I don't think it will, but we'll try. We'll try to bring it up. Imagine that it let me in. Okay, cool. I'm gonna check, make sure everything is still audible, but I want to hear some of what are your other top 10 moments of this year? Let's see if I can find Whiskers. Some of you guys will know. You guys will know Whiskers the AI cat. I'm actually going to show you my top Whiskers moment of 2025. You'll hear the click, click, click of my keyboard in the background. I don't think I can find it because I didn't have it queued up, but we'll it's not gonna work. But anyway, there's this one where he like Whiskers is drinking vodka on the porch with a bunch of Russian cats playing dominoes. You know what I mean? And the lady comes outside. She's like, "What vodka, domino, Whiskers? What are you doing?" You know, and he's like, and he starts to flip out. But for those that are really observant, one of the things we saw with just this one little slice of kind of AI creation within that, I noticed a strange evolution that took place throughout the year. The early stage videos that came out showed very crude, they were very crude animated moments. You know what I mean? It was very unfinished and unpolished. And now it's interesting because not only has it become ultra lifelike, but one of the evolutionary elements I noticed was that Whiskers now fights back. Like at some point, this AI cat or the AI that animates Whiskers, or maybe just the user who put in the prompts that said, "Hey, I want him to fight back." At some point, he starts to fight back, which to me is amazing. It shows a really bizarre level of evolution that seems to be taking place. And I guess to go back to the theme for, is like top moments. It's like, boom, that was one that for me really grabbed me. I haven't been too taken by many other kind of things over the years, but that was a big one. I see. So here we go. Top moment. Here we go. Thank you, Joanna LeBlanc, for labeling it like that. If you're here and you want to share your top moment, seriously, please say it like that with all caps, so I know to click on your name. Okay, here we go. Top moment when I saw. Oh, okay. When I saw a girl marry her AI chat GPT. Or yeah, yeah. You know what's wild is we're gonna that's gonna become kind of a much bigger trend. I'll say that as a soft prediction as we move into this next cycle. I think we're gonna watch a lot more of AI driven psychosis, especially when it comes to relationships. And for some people, it's going to be like a secret addiction that they have at home, and for other people, it's going to be out in public and very, very noticeable. But to me, that yeah, that is very much a top moment. And some of you guys have also heard. I do have one prediction that sounds really, really crazy, which I will get to later. Don't let me forget it. And I don't think it's going to be a 2026 thing, but it's a thing. It's a thing that's coming. Anyway, okay, so Chat GPT marriage was one of Joanna's top moments of the year. Share with me your other top moments of the year. Here's one we can all definitely agree on. Top moments of peak insanity and socio-political, wildness this year. We got to admit Charlie Kirk, right? Love him or hate him, that was certainly a moment that will be forever etched into the collective conscious, will it not? I would say file that under, what nobody saw coming, and then we look at, the so-called assassin who, the more they show his face now, because he's been doing, like court appearances, the more he's literally a recreation of Lee Harvey Oswald. And, we've kind of unpacked this in other forms. And granted, I haven't really articulated it properly, but there's a definitive timeline marker effect that I think was initiated through the assassination of Charlie Kirk. And it was almost like a focused recreation of something. Whether you want to call it, similarly to what happened with Kennedy or other political assassinations or something totally different. It was, I think, one of the greatest examples of what we would call that show, you know what I mean? That everyone talks about, that we're all watching, that's unfolding in front of all of our eyes, that a certain amount of people in this world take very, very seriously. Another amount of people in this world don't really give a shit about. And then I think there's those of us that kind of are in the middle, sort of like watching it, moving back and forth, to whichever, so, but that was a huge one, right? Was it not? Will there be other strange 2026? I'm not trying to get morbid, but I guess I'll get morbid. Do you think they're going to whack any other key political figures in 2026? Maybe. Raga Cat's got it. Finding the deep state underpinnings of Charlie Kirk. Totally, totally. I don't even think I have the energy to really like articulate what I want to say about that whole thing. So I just kind of allow it to unfold and just watch. Here we go. Roar Diamond Heart says, top moment, Epstein. Who? Are we still talking about that guy? Yeah, I agree. That's been an interesting one to watch unfold. And maybe I won't get too specific on my personal views upon that whole thing because people will probably take it the wrong way. But I think a lot of the pageantry that we're watching around the Epstein phenomenon and all of that stuff, I hate to say it, but it's just completely hijacked. And I really don't, well, yeah, that's my unpopular opinion. I don't see it leading anywhere. I would even say that from, if you want to add like another weighted word onto it, I would even say from a professional perspective in doing what I do not see a great cycle of change being initiated by the fragmented release of redacted files. It doesn't really look like it goes anywhere when I look at what we would call future timelines or momentum going forward. It feels as though the powers that be, whether you love them or you hate them or they're all on the list, they did a really good job of suppressing it and tearing it apart and people bought their way out of it. You know what I mean? It's too hijacked now. And so some people would say that's a very fatalistic idea. They would say, well, that's a horrible thing, so you're so, you know what I mean, because they'll jump to a conclusion, and they'll be like, so that means you don't actually care. How people always do that. It's like, no, it's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you're getting a prime example of what it looks like to watch a disclosure process become hijacked. And it sucks to say it, but it's what it is. And so I would definitely call it, like a we could call it one of the top moments. We'll allow it. We'll allow it. Okay. All right, oh, here we go. Ragged Cat's top moment. Where'd it go? Oh, this chat's going too fast. What's up, Carolina Gong? How's it going? What's up, Gus? I hope Gus is eating something really juicy for New Year's. Ragged Cat says, top moment, Mrs. or is it Mr.? Which one is it? We don't know, right? That, to me, that certainly, here's the thing. It's like, I think if anyone really looks at that individual's energy, like, and I'm not saying it's like the one of those, like, if you actually open your eyes, but there's a bit of that as well. I mean, it's like it's similar to, like, we could even say shades of the process of disclosure. It's like we're waiting for somebody to tell us it's okay to believe what everybody already knows. And I think that for people that really read energy or feel into things, they would have already felt into the presence of this or this person that's married to the president of France and go, oh, okay, yeah, definitely. That if you want to call it trans or intersex or just straight up male, definitely. It's like, you know what I mean? Li- Literally true. But that might even be forbidden. Are we allowed to say that on YouTube? You never know. I never know what we're allowed to say anymore. I think I have PTSD from watching everyone else lose their channels over the year. But anyway, so we have a few good ones. We have Epstein files. We have Mr. Macron. We have Charlie Kirk. That was a good one. Okay. Anybody else? Top moments. Did you have a top personal moment this year? Maybe, I don't know. Was there a crazy? Not that we need to dive super far down this road, but a lot of us walk through major crisis. You know what I mean? Did you walk through a crisis this year? What was your top what was your top crisis moment of 2025? I can tell you my top crisis moment. Well, I will expand upon it more in the future. I got to spend a very frightening 3 days in the hospital earlier this year that hardly anyone knew about. Definitely put the fear of God and scared me for my life. That is certainly true. But that was my top, like, oh shit. That was my top oh shit moment. Was a major health scare. Luckily doing really, really good now. But major health scares, which was, I think, a thing for a lot of us. A lot of people had to go through a big kind of upset within personal health or self-care issues. For me, that's ultimately what it was, pieces of yourself that you do not maintain for many years. And then all of a sudden, one day, it's like a car that breaks down right at the moment when you need it the most. And it's like, oh shit, what have I done? Or what did I not do? You know what I mean? That kind of that kind of, see, Carrie. Sorry, I have to look down to read properly. Carrie Hanlon had it too. I had a major health crisis. Boom, but it led me to healing. Same as well. Internet high five to you, and I'm not even meaning that in a sarcastic way. Absolutely, same here. And you had to ride it out, and you had to overcome it, and you had to heal it, and you had to, you know what I mean, man. Whew, Lord, I feel you, and I say that with absolute sincerity, man. Because, oh my Lord. Anyway, here we go. Another top personal moment. Realizing my adult daughter would rather live as a psychotic rather than do her internal work. Yeah, I hear you. It's one of those things where I guess as parents, which is a hard thing to realize, you know, it's easy really easy to talk about it from another person's perspective, but it's like those are those moments in life where you realize that this person has their path that they're creating, and it's like you can love them forever and do all these things right, but ultimately they're going to make their own choices, and it's just like, what can we actually do? What, what can we actually do? Um, Joanna LeBlanc says, top crisis moment when 2025 sucked just as much, if not more than 2024. Yeah, I can't lie. I there was certainly a shared amount of familiar discomfort from the previous year. Absolutely. I feel that goes very deep for the both of us. You can see me like, wow, actually, yeah. Yeah, yeah, totally. Um, oh, we got another one. Same health issues were wild this year. It was, right? And we're not even all in the same age group on this live stream. A lot of us are all over the board, you know what I mean? And so, what's up, Robin Lane? 2025 has felt rather uneventful for me, at least what I have held in my memory. You know what? That's probably a really, really good thing. And I'm not saying that sarcastically or with any kind of hidden meaning. It's probably a really, really good thing that you may be dissociated through a certain portion of it because, that means you probably did something right. You didn't have to go through a certain amount of turbulence that other people did. And oh, here's a good one. Selena says, my top crisis moment almost died on the highway. Oh, Lord. Oh, my tire blew. That is a scary one. I've had that happen. That's a frightening moment. All of a sudden you're driving, it's like, and it's like, oh, you have to, stay calm and like, control your car, probably in the middle of all this traffic and people. And it's like, oh, dude, nobody enjoys it. Anyway, top moments. Was there a top comedic moment for you since we're now, since we're now going down the trauma road? Oh man, Gus had a health scare. Oh man, but he's all right. Last January. Okay. I'm glad he's okay. That's a scary one. That's a frightening one. Nice. My mental health has been the most unhinged in 2025. Well, get ready because in 2026, it's good. We will only go more and more insane. What other choice is there? You know what I mean? The world's already insane as it is. But as immediately start drooling on myself. Anyway, let's keep going. We are going to do some readings in a little bit. Was there a top comedic moment of 2025? Was there a top AI moment of 2025? Was there a top? Yeah, you can still do crisis moments. That's okay. That's all right. That's okay. What's up, Anchor Haven? I'm just a completely different person to who I thought I was. You know what? That's a powerful statement. And a lot of you guys have heard me say this in the past, but if you're ever wondering personally, how much like did I change? Did I go through anything? Is anything actually better or worse in my life? Especially if you had a few shitty years, like somebody was just talking about. Don't worry, you're not alone in that. But if you can, and we're gonna do this right now live, everybody just close your eyes for a moment. If you're driving, don't close your eyes, okay? If you're driving, unless you want to take your laugh into your hands. But close your eyes for a moment and just try to imagine January of this year. For some of you, it's going to be really hard. For me, it's really hard to go back. I'm like, when? Huh? January? But try to rewind. Try to rewind. Just do it with me. Play along for a moment. Try to rewind. Go all the way back to the beginning of the year. We're going to give it a few more moments. Keep going. In fact, maybe you can even think of New Year's last year. Sometimes that's easier for people to grab onto. Think of where you were this time last year. New Year's Eve, 2024. There we go. Some people are getting there. Okay. Now look at that version of yourself within your mind's eye. I'm serious. Imagine that version of yourself within your mind's eye, the version of you that you were on December 31st of 2024. And don't worry, you'll have certain pieces right, some will be wrong. For some people, it'll be really easy. Just try to imagine that version of yourself. Couple moments of silence and just ask yourself, imagine it. How much have I actually changed? You can even take a look at these questions. Was there something that I believed at the beginning of this year? Was there something that I was holding on to around this time last year that's no longer with me? Belief systems, ideas about what's true and what's not true. You can ask yourself, was there a relationship? What was my relationship status? You know what I mean? How is that going? Was it, like in the old days, it's complicated, you know what I mean? Like, think about that. Think about that version of yourself. What was going on within my relationships at the end of 2024? Okay. We're gonna keep going, you guys. We're gonna keep going. Okay. Now we're gonna go one step further, which for some people won't be very far, but for some people it's gonna be like, what? Now think of, where were you with money and abundance this time last year? How was it flowing for you? Think of the end of 2024. Were you hurting for money? Were things more stable? Were you yearning for a better time then as well? You know what I mean? Look at that pattern. Look at that in your life. And we could go on and on. We could go on that one, but pause with it for a moment, just feel those things and then think about it. How much have you actually changed? 'Cause I don't know about you guys. It's been a lot, so much. I would say for everyone that's here, it's been so much more than you actually realize. And I think that one of the things that we often lose sight of along the human journey is the ability to look back across a stretch of time and realize, like, how much has actually shifted and how much has actually changed and how much we've actually liberated ourselves or corrected things, or healed something, or whatever the you know what I mean, like, whatever it is, because I think a lot of us are very caught up within the immediacy of, like, right now, you know what I mean, especially given, because holidays is over and there's always a lot of right now energy for everybody around this time of year, meaning, like, everything's recent and raw and fresh and everyone's ready to kind of go through some sort of unconscious offloading of some kind of, self, created energy that we're holding on to. And so it's a heavy time. But I think when we look back upon it later, with a different perspective, as they say, the eyes of time are much kinder. You know what I mean? So maybe it's better, maybe it's worse. Missing Time says money is still the same low, but my weed is much, much better. That to me is an upgrade, and I think I think we are rightful to look at the upgrades. It's like, okay, all right, so maybe I don't have a lot more money, but damn, I've got much, much greater quality weed, which is you gotta learn to appreciate the small things. I mean that sincerely. Anchor Haven says, I look back and she was in a box. Wow. Okay. I would say if there's one thing we can say about you, Anchor Haven, you definitely crawled out of the box this year in a really, really, really big way. So good job with that, for real. uh, Girl in the Gong has to drive through this. What is it? I have to drive through the snow and get some meat. They say that is that what is it now? Like Christmas Eve or something? No, no, it's not Christmas Eve. I think it's the day before Thanksgiving, and then New Year's Eve, I think, are the top 2 days like, cannabis sales in America. I think there might be another date in there, but those are the top, like, 3 days, which, makes sense. But anyway, So there have been some upgrades. Some people have liberated themselves from, relationships or chapters, long running chapters of dysfunction. Um, it's been an interesting journey. Now, was there anything really, really awesome that you were able to accomplish this year that you were unable to accomplish at other times? Like, and I mean that very, very sincerely. Was there any major accomplishments? Because I think, always we have this unconscious tendency to, which is literally what we're doing here. We're like, what was the hardest? What was the craziest? What was the worst? You know what I mean? Was there a personal moment where you realized you had become triumphant, or you had rather triumphed, I guess we could say, over something? If so, what was it? I know that's kind of a tender one for some of us out there. It's kind of a tender one, but anyway. Whoa, what? Met a long lost brother? Wow, okay. That's a big deal, man. Whoa, wild. Older or younger? Good job on that. That's a bold one. You know what I mean? Suddenly there's somebody in my family that, just showed up after all these years, whether you knew about them or not, or they knew about you, just, that's an interesting one. Good, yeah, good, good job. White Swan says, I'm happy you found your balls again, Selena. For real though, I am glad that you did as well. Like I was saying in our Patreon group, I think 2026, one of the themes that I think is going to be helpful for us to kind of embrace is healthy and appropriate audacity, a willingness to really speak up and to be the one that's like, excuse me, in this really awkward way, but not in the sense that we're sort of forcing our will upon the world, from the perspective of us seeking to receive that which is truly ours. You know what I mean? And that can go in a lot of directions, because sometimes that which is truly ours can also come with like a little bit of payback. But it's like, I believe that we're entering a season, which I guess if you want to get technical, it is a 1 year. So, we are definitively entering a new cycle. And I think within that, certain elements of leadership will rise within the self. And I think that one of the things that will help us understand that piece of yourself is a willingness to speak up, to force the self to be heard, maybe by new people and new places, to, diversify and to, we could say refine our abilities of communication. And so I don't know, man. I think used in the right ways, bold audacity can like get you things in this life that you truly deserve, that would have never come to you had you not had the balls to be like, excuse me, in this way where they're like, oh my God, she just walked right in there and asked for what? And then you gave it to her? Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's like, what? My goodness, you know what I mean? It's like, I have a feeling that's gonna aid us in some way, but maybe I'm wrong, because for other people, it's gonna be going the opposite direction. And we're gonna have to tone that down, which is always a fun one. You're gonna see that, like like whenever you see like a theme arising, or like you're kind of watching what we would call like an energetic trend within, like a group of people. You'll see one side go this direction, and people that are holding too much of it will go in a different direction. And it's like some people will have to refine themselves in very new ways and kind of lose that. I noticed somebody said king or queen of wands. I don't know who it was. Oh yeah, it was Joanna. That, I would say, that is a very, very good example of an energy that will be greatly beneficial to us in 2026. King and Queen of Wands energy. What happens with King and Queen of Wands? From, we could say, a physical perspective, as a living human being in this life, one of the ways we get in touch or learn about King and Queen of Wands is by learning to fulfill our desires, by learning to be willful, by learning to, at certain stages, demand things from the world. At other stages, we have to be willing to do things in front of the entire world, or like right outside on the sidewalk in front of the entire neighborhood. The king and queen of wands are very, very interesting, because it's like they can be both really chaotic and narcissistically self-serving, and they can also be incredibly heroic, and they can teach people things. And it's like, for those of you guys that have hung around, you've probably heard me talk about them a bit over the years, but we tend to see negative, I would say, generally speaking, we tend to see negative versions of King and Queen of Wands, or those are the ones that tend to make headlines, or the ones that tend to get noticed first, because you'll look at them and you're like, oh my, oh God, are you serious? Look at her. She did what? Those type of people. And it's like, yeah, they did it. You know what I mean? And they get judged a lot. And so there's a weird balance that you have to strike with it. And anyway, I think these are things that are going to be aiding us in our new cycle. I guess fire energy comes to the forefront for a lot of us, which is interesting because I noticed this. I guess it's a fire horse year, whatever that means. I literally don't know. Um, but one thing I will say is that the element of fire, at least within my work and what I've been noticing with people, is definitively rising. And you'll hear a lot of people talk about elemental energies, you know what I mean? Other psychics and, so-called, intuitives will talk about it. And just so you know, how will you be able to differentiate that? How would you know if you are having an uprising or a change or an activation, or just something going on with the elemental energy in your life? Well, we'll start with fire. Number one, fire is often felt through desire, through passion, through anger, through confrontation, through sexual energies, through intimacy of all kinds, through your desires, through your, I would even say, your physical actions. It's so many things, but for a lot of us, it's that burning element of energy that drives us forward, that keeps us going, that kind of animates the body and gives us will in many ways. And you will, at times you'll see people deficient in fire. What does it look like when you're deficient in fire element? They're kind of listless. They have very little drive. They're easily led astray. They really don't have any passion in their life. Everything is kind of like, just wilted in a sense. That would be low fire. High fire is very, very willful, fiery, sometimes overly demanding. When you get too much fire, you can become domineering, you can become abusive, you can become narcissistic and manipulative. And that's why I was saying most people only recognize when that elemental energy goes in a negative direction. I mean, there's also positive examples, but it's really easy to look at those. And so just like with water is emotion, water is feelings of all kinds. It has so much to do with how we, not necessarily how we express ourselves, but how we hold ourselves within the world, what pours forth from our being. You know what I mean? It's how we relate, how we navigate changes within relationships, I would say, would be indicated by the element of water. And anyway, I could go on and on. I'm not trying to make it a elemental energy rant here because I'll go way too far with it. But anyway, just as an example, those are an example of a couple of elements. And so I think yeah, there we go. Girl in her gong said it. It will be a fire horse here. I think that also denotes for a lot of us, there's going to be a lot of hard work that's going to be necessary in order to meet certain goals. And that I think by changing and evolving the ways in which we support ourselves and support others in the days and weeks to come, and I mean that very, very sincerely, one of the questions you can be asking yourself, right, is how am I being supported in my work, by the world, by those around me, by just everything. And then you also ask yourself, who am I supporting? Who am I holding up? Who am I doing the work for? Is the work in my life equally yoked, quote unquote, if you know what I mean? And there's going to be a little bit of what we would call like a redistribution of those energies. And anyway, I could rant on and on it forever, but I would say this is a good time for people. Like, if you find yourself kind of low in fire, this is a good time to begin to familiarize yourself with that element once again. And one of the simplest ways we can do so is by candle gazing, by connecting with fire from a behavioral perspective. You'll allow yourself to be willful. You'll do things because you want to do them, you know what I mean? You might argue a little bit, you might allow your anger to be more present, to go forth from the body rather than restricting it. I think one of the things that really restricts fire energy for people is that they will not have been taught how to appropriately express things like anger or dissatisfaction, or they can get into a setting of people pleasing. And so, the internal fire just gets dampened and it gets kind of squished down more and more and more. And so, anyway, embrace it if you can over the coming days. And I'll look at some of your comments here as I rant on and on about elemental stuff. Been working with fire. Oh, there you go. Carrie Allen got it. Boom. Robin Lane's rolling out for dinner. Good luck out there. Good luck out there. Anchor Haven works with fire and ice generally. That feels like that's a fun combination. I feel that from you. Yeah. Good job. Did anyone think 2026 will be the same 2025, worse and stuff? Andromeda says, you know what? I'll tell you what I'm hoping for. And some people are going to get sad. They'll be like, Matthew, why? Why would you hope for such things? I hope for world changing events. I don't mean disasters. Sometimes they have to take the form of a disaster. Sometimes it'll be just an amazing thing that takes place. My prayer is that 2026 we get to have an experience of one of those things where the world stops for a split second or a moment and everyone goes, you know what I mean? And I don't know how that'll happen. Hopefully it won't be on negative terms. Hopefully it'll be something cool like a fake alien invasion. That would be my kind of choice if I could choose. I would choose the fake alien in evasion, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't see it as being worse unless that's the way that we kind of allow it to be. And I'm not saying that from one of those like, well, you're the one, creating that. I'm not saying it from that perspective. I'm saying it from it's like I believe we have much more control over how this next stretch of time is going to go than you might believe. And I would say take control over your path and your environment. And um, anyway, I'm ranting aimlessly here with everyone. Johanna says, I'm a rat. Whoa, okay, cool. I think I am from what I recall, I think I was a fire snake or something like that. I don't know. I definitely know I was born in a snake year. That one I know. I think it was a fire snake, but maybe not. Maybe it'll be something cool like a bionic snake. Do they have those? Maybe. Anyway, let me know if you guys have any questions. We are going to do readings. Yes, that's part of our journey here today. Um, I'm gonna do a very rare thing, a thing that I have not done, I believe, on this channel or really ever before in the past. And I do have a second channel, which as we go forward in the coming weeks, my prayer is to integrate it more and kind of do other stuff. But every now and then, in sort of what we would call the quest for detoxification and greater clarity within the mind or the body, or really just as we try to, without using the dreaded H word, just get better and feel better. Every now and then, there are certain, we could say, products or things that I have come across that have been like game changers for me, where it's been one of those things where I took and I had those moments where I'm like, oh my God, this works. Something was changing within me. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I'm actually going to mention a product that you guys can find on Amazon if you want to get it. But earlier this year, this was a thing I was talking about in Patreon as well. But earlier this year, after having a lot of health issues, I began to prioritize the production of glutathione in my body, just as a method of protecting the liver and kind of trying to reset a bunch of systems and well-being and all kinds of stuff that was going haywire in my body. I started to prioritize glutathione production. And the first form that it took for me was through two supplements, which are widely available that anyone can take. And, it's not any kind of medical stuff. You'll know if it's right for you, do your own research. But I started taking NAC earlier this year and glycine. And I noticed as soon as I began to take both of those, I started to sleep very, very differently. I noticed my skin began to change. I noticed just tremendous, tremendous shifts in what I would call just like brain fog, and just energy of the mind started to clear up. And, I had noticed that as I was kind of, it sounds cheesy, but as I continued to get older, yeah, it's like you notice how your brain starts getting a little weird and like a little foggy. And right around the time I started to really prioritize glutathione production, I had a shocking shift from just taking those 2 supplements, and that kind of led me down a little bit of a investigation road in my own way. And eventually I found, and this is a thing that'll probably show up on your Facebook timeline now that I'm about to say this, or on your, like, YouTube AI algorithm, but, I started to purchase liposomal glutathione. And there was one brand in particular that I've been using that I think will be incredibly helpful for those of you guys that watch this channel. Why? Why do I think that? Not from the perspective of like you will get healthy and things in your body will get better. I say from the perspective of generating clarity, and especially intuitive clarity through the what we might call just clearing of organs, and primarily the liver. Especially for those of you guys that do intuitive work in traditional Chinese medicines, they say the liver rules the eyes. And what that means is not only does it affect the quality of your physical eyesight, but it also affects the quality of inner sight and the clarity of inner sight, and how we perceive what is true, what is real, what is not real, all sorts of things through just kind of the internal sensing of the liver itself is critical for those of us that do this work. And I noticed also as soon as I started taking glutathione that honestly the readings changed, and there was like this shocking level of depth. And what I owe it to was just a clearing of toxins, just straight up clearing of oxidative stress and toxins within my brain. And so, anyway, this is a brand that you guys can get. I don't have any sponsors on this channel. No one pays me for this. So, but you guys can get this on Amazon right now. And it is liposomal glutathione. This is actually a pretty cheap and pretty good brand. I'm gonna spell it in the chat. It's a really weird name, but if you are a person who is seeking greater clarity within the body, within the mind's eye, also if you're looking for a way to just let go of inflammation and to really kind of clear up a bunch of other systems, which we're not going to go into because I'm not trying to sell this to you. I'm just putting it out there. You can do your own research on how glutathione works, but this is the brand. I'm going to put it in the reason why I'm choosing to even tell you guys this is because I have been utterly blown away by how well this has worked for me. Shocking. So much so. Some of you guys will notice not too long ago, I started to take off my glasses all the time when I was looking at stuff on the screen. And I actually thought a certain amount of it was from my glasses because they're kind of a shitty prescription, and they are a shitty prescription. But what I noticed is, and this is a thing that you'll notice when the liver begins to clear, is that your close vision, what is it? I forget what that's called. Your close up nearsighted vision will clear up dramatically. And it's at the stage now where it's like I can see probably 30% clearer, if you want to put a number on it, than I could, like previously. So much so that now wearing these glasses where I used to need them to be able to see, it's too much. So it's like my literal prescription has changed. And I think in large part it has to do with clearing of toxins from taking glutathione directly. And so, um, anyway, this is the name. Yeah, there it is. You can find it on Amazon. I don't have a link. I'm not like you know what I mean? I'm not here to like buy now, 25, you know, percent off if you use the code blah blah blah. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't have any of that. It's in the chat. I'm gonna put it on the screen. Let's say if you're noticing brain fog, if you're noticing you're having a hard time sleeping, let's say if you're noticing that you wake up in the morning and you feel like a lot more sick and heavy than you used to feel. And I don't mean like heavy, fat heavy. I mean like, where your energy is just like, and you're just kind of like dragging. Those were things that I noticed shifted very, very quickly upon taking this. And anyway, if anyone out there wants to begin this strange 2026 cycle with some things that could maybe, they could have a potentially positive effect on you, do your research, check it out. I'm using all the proper disclaimers, but there you go. Yeah, yeah. Educational educational purposes only. But, anyway, give it a shot, you guys. It's shockingly, shockingly helped me, man. I never thought I did not expect to find myself pushing stuff, not that I'm pushing anything, but you know what I mean? Like going saying, "Hey, check this out. You guys should get this." Unless it actually worked, you know what I mean? But that would be really hilarious. Imagine this if 1 week from now, we're going back to the book reading, live stream, and right in the middle of the live stream, I paused to say, have you ever thought about what you could gain from buying gold and diversifying your gold portfolio and buying precious metals? Well, if you buy, blah, you know what I mean? What if? Imagine that you're watching this live, and suddenly I did one of those horrible midstream like things where they take over like 5 minutes of this person's live, and you're like, oh my god, you're literally doing a 5 minute branding ad for, John Smith Gold Company. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you know, that one or no. Or do you ever get worried about data brokers stealing your info? You know what I mean? What if I all of a sudden busted into that? You know what I mean? That would be hilarious. It would be hilarious. I would be cringe. Then again, you never know. It does. It tastes kinda weird. It has kind of like it's a little bit sulfury, a little bit lemony, a little bit weird. It's definitely not a bad flavor. I promise you, it's not a bad flavor. You'll be like, "Oh, that was it? Really? Oh, okay." And then you'll sleep differently that night. You'll feel much looser probably in your joints. You'll be like, "Whoa, I kinda do feel a little bit more, huh," you know? It definitely helps. Anyway, you never know. One day we'll get a weird sponsor and I'll start trying to sell you a random product that you never thought I would sell. What would be a random product? What would be the most randomest product that you've ever seen like a YouTube person try to shill for? What's the most weirdest thing you've ever seen? I'm serious. We have a highly experienced cast of characters here watching this live stream right now that have been all over the internet since the very beginning days. What was the creepiest shill moment you ever saw? Oh my god, there it is. That's it right there. This would be the creepiest one right here. You can buy my crypto you can buy my new snake snake coin. Oh my god. That would be a classic one. Thank you, Selena. Good idea. We'll start shilling for some random like crypto bro network. Download this app and get 50 free snake coins for a limited time only. You gotta sign up for the shadow drop, bro. You didn't sign up for the shadow drop. You know what I mean? You never know. That's right. For when the alien invasion happens, totally. Maybe we'll start selling alien invasion insurance. It will only be a matter of time until one of your favorite YouTube influencers begins to sell alien invasion insurance. Do you ever get worried about what'll happen to your friends, family, loved ones, and your pets in case of an absolute in the event of a sudden alien invasion at the hand of, ancient forces suddenly landing on Earth? Are you worried about not paying your bills during this time period or, loss of wages from work? If that's you, you know what I mean? Buy now. Maybe we'll sell alien invasion insurance, possibly. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna look for your answers. What was the most cringe thing you ever saw somebody shill for on YouTube? Girl on her gong says LifeWave patches. You know what? I've never tried a LifeWave patch. I see other people try them, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm like, I kind of want to put a sticker on me, but I never have. And so maybe they work. I honestly don't know. I honestly do not know. Okay, what was the most cringest thing that you ever saw somebody shill on YouTube? Life of Brian says BitConnect. LOL. Yeah, totally. I don't know what BitConnect is. That's how out of touch I am with the mortal world, but it sounds cringe. Sounds cringe as hell. Oh Lord. Okay, and a lot of really? Are they shilling sex toys on YouTube? Oh my Lord. I mean, probably. You know what I mean? Okay, okay, let's see what else do we have here? I have to move my glasses down so I can properly see your comments. Okay, Heidi Pop says car oil tissue. Okay, I could see that. I could see that during the COVID era, where people might have been trying to sell tissue. Maybe. Oh, you know what's one? Here we go. This is one of the most cringe shill, influencer shills I've seen. My Pillow. When they start shilling My Pillow, it's like, like, really, it's just the greatest pillow ever. I just have to get one. You know what I mean? It's like the My Pillow shills. Oh Lord, my God, those are fun ones. Okay, I might start shilling for all of these things. You guys, watch out. Next week, I might be shilling for what's the one that the Left Behind insurance reg. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. That sounds like it could be like the title of a short story as well. Um, okay. I don't think the alien invasion insurance would go over too well outside of the star seed community, but you never know. And the truth is, it's such a small niche like community. That's kind of one of the things that kind of trips me out about the small pool syndrome, where it's like people get caught up in a very, very small kind of pool of fish, and they don't know that that's not the only world there is. Not to say that they don't know, it's just that people tend to not branch out of that. I've just that's been a thing that, whew, Lord, it's an interesting thing to observe. But white pants? Who's shilling white pants, Selena? Who's shilling white pants? What if I showed up to a live wearing white pants? What would you guys do? Would you be supportive of me and cheer on my decision to wear white after Labor Day? Or would you chastise me for being so bold and careless with my personal style? Which one? Which one? Which one would it be? Oh, here we go. Missing Time's got a good one. Trump sneaker. Oh yeah, right, right. There are Trump shoes, right? Wasn't that a thing, or is that a Mandela effect? I feel like I've seen an ad for Trump shoes already. One thing I saw this year, we're gonna file this under honorable mention in our top whatever list, was that who was it? I think is it it's not Dunkin' Donuts. Is it IHOP? I think it's IHOP. IHOP has a shoe line where they put maple syrup. It might not be IHOP. Some of you out there who are really, really quick with your searching skills will be able to find this, but there is a mainstream restaurant in 2025 that announced that they were putting actual maple syrup in their shoes. Somebody find out who it was. And maybe it was AI. If it was, that will be proof that I was tricked by the AI. Because I swear to God, I thought it was real. I was like, they probably did. Or you know what? I want it to be real. I'm just gonna be honest. I want to live in a world in which there's these packets of maple syrup somehow on the sides of the shoe, kind of like how they had Reebok pumps in the old days. Wow, oh man, that's like dating yourself, right? If you remember Reebok pumps, it was like Reebok, right? Where they had the where you press the thing on your shoe. It might have been. Girl in her gong says Krispy Kreme. I don't maybe. Krispy Kreme is literally inedible to me, honestly. I'm gonna be 100% real with you. I literally cannot I cannot digest it. It's like even putting that amount of sugar in my mouth now, I'm like, "Oh, oh." It's like I get this weird reaction, but here's the thing, I will admit it tastes good, so it's like this part of me wants it still, kind of like soda. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I can't drink soda at all, but sometimes we will literally go to, like, a restaurant and, in those, like, soda fountains, how they have, like, soda water and then they have Coke, I'll do, like, half I'll do half, like, straight up soda water and then, like, a little bit of Coke, and somehow that works, but, like, I literally cannot physically tolerate it, and, let alone the fact that it's completely toxic to so many different to so many different systems in your body. Holland Sass says, Lil Nas X had the blood drips. Oh, right. And those supposedly had real human blood on them, right? Did it not? Or something along those lines. To me, I, I, I hate to say it. That's kind of the sign of the times of the world that we signed up to live in right now. I'm not saying that's good or bad or right or wrong or beautiful or like, oh my God, I want the shoe. It's just like we all chose to live in the timeline in which we get to see those things, you know, which is an interesting thing to kind of, behold when you think about it. It's like, wow, really? Yeah, yeah. As far as my belief system goes, we signed up to be here during this time on earth to witness these crazy things, as they say, to get to see man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. And we've seen a few of those. Miami Vice clothing line. Is that your prediction for this coming year? That I will start a Miami Vice clothing line? Or that I would begin to wear Miami Vice clothes? Because honestly, girl, and your gong, that's not a bad idea. That is not a bad idea. I think I'm due for a personal style shift. So I might make it kind of like vaporwave, which would be really cringe, right, you guys? Because I guess that would be like Miami Vice is kind of like vaporwave now, right? I just might do it. It's either that or I'm gonna go totally hardcore Western. You know what I mean? I'm gonna become one of those dudes that somehow wears like a Western cowboy outfit everywhere, which is always fun. It's always fun to see it. I mean, clearly there's a lot of those people here in Texas. I genuinely enjoy seeing them. But it's always fun when you see it outside of its element. You know what I mean? For those of you guys that have hung out at a disclosure conference with me, imagine we show up to some conference in 2026 and you see Matthew and Honora, and I come walking up wearing this crazy cowboy outfit with this massive belt buckle and a cowboy hat, kind of like that meme of that skinny kid that sings and he's like, like that, like this really crazy, weird, like almost 1970s cowboy style. What would you do? Is the question. How would you react to such a thing? Would you support me in that choice? Or would you chastise me for being so shamelessly, what, 2004? You know what I mean? Oh my God, that's 20 years, over 20 years ago. Oh my God. Okay. Anyway, that's how you know. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Aurora Diamond Heart says that's Miami Vice definitely include. Yeah, it does. It includes white pants. That's a bold move. If you can pull off the all white outfit, I will vote for you for president. If you can do that, I will write your name in for president. Holland Sass, you're very, very psychic because believe it or not, I was actually thinking of Tom Selleck earlier, and I never think of why would you think of Tom Selleck? Not that any bad reason, but I'm just like, you know what I mean? Why was I thinking of Tom Selleck earlier? And then you mentioned it. And so I don't know. Is there a Mandela effect happening with Tom Selleck? Does anyone know if Tom Selleck is still alive? Should I have a Tom Selleck mustache? Or should I go for more of a Burt Reynolds mustache? Maybe Burt Reynolds? I don't know. Unfortunately, I can't. My mustache stage began at age 12 and continued throughout the entirety of my high school experience, for better or worse, and mostly worse. I was one of those people that grew a mustache incredibly early. And so, unfortunately, it was not a good thing. And I like rode it out in the most awkward and unpleasant way for a number of years, all the way through high school to the bitter end. I think, yeah, I'm pretty sure, pretty sure to the bitter end. But anyway, did somebody say I was gonna get a new tattoo? I saw that go by somewhere. I don't think so. I don't think so. I might. I'm not opposed to new tattoos. I just there's just nothing that I feel called to like have cut into my body at this stage. You know what I mean? But I'm not opposed to it. Anyway, I think we've been here long enough. Let's begin some readings. For those of you guys that would like to participate in our New Year reading process, we're going to begin right now. If you want to place your comment in the chat, if you have a question, if there's something that you want me to pull a card on, you can do so. Or we can just see what comes up. And so I realize we've been talking for over an hour, which is fun because that'll sort of weed out all of the all of the random people. And so let's do it. So our focus for our December 31st end of year reading process, like I mentioned in the description, is just going to be on areas of focus maybe that we can bring in the coming days and weeks, as I think a lot of us approach jumping off points and just very, very bold, what I would call cycles of evolution and change that are slated to take place in the coming year. And we'll sprinkle some bizarre predictions in the midst of all that as well. But here we go. We're gonna begin. Who was the first one? It was Tanyan. Sorry, Tanyan Bove. I probably just totally mispronounced your name, but you were very fast. You were fast on the draw. And so we're going to start out areas of focus for 2026, anything that needs to be seen or heard. For those of you guys that don't know, I am an advocate of heavy shuffling. I think it's critical to randomize our energy. So we're going to mix these up really, really good. I guess it's been a while since we did like a reading live, right, you guys? Feels like it's been a while. Okay, here we go for Tanyan, sorry. Areas of focus for 2026. All those of you guiding this collective experience in this now moment on the earth plane, we just ask, what does she need to see? What needs to be heard in the interest of growth, clarity, focus, and change? Here we go. We'll see it together. 3, 2, 1. Whoa, areas of focus. Wow, you got a very specific answer, Tanya. You got the 9 of Swords. Your area of focus for 2026 is upon your mind, upon your thoughts. And it doesn't mean for the entire year. It's just as you transition into this new cycle, we could say, for the next, maybe week or so, or maybe more, maybe a month. This is the 9 of Swords. When it shows up in your life, we're not classifying you as being like this. We're not assigning this to you. I'm just saying, in interest of focus and change, don't allow yourself to become overwhelmed. And if there are things right now that are overwhelming you about the road ahead, or just events or thought forms that are taking place within your mind right now that are causing you to lose sleep and to just be in a state of worry. This is a time for you to cast them aside, to literally throw them out, and also to begin to deprogram yourself bit by bit and understand that you're not overwhelmed yet. You have a lot farther to go, but you are being asked for the days ahead to generate strength by clearing the mind. Ultimately, the problem with the Nine of Swords, if there is a problem, when we say, what do we need to focus on? It's going to be our mind and upon the cyclical series of thoughts that continue to roll through over and over and over again. And so it's a very, very good time to also reduce anything that causes you to feel overly stressed out. That tends to include relationships and friendships as well, or people that you just find yourself talking to, and the words and the energies that they leave you with are still echoing in your mind and in your heart hours or even days later. If you have relationships like that where you just notice their energy hangs around and continues to make you feel heavy and lost and confused later, please avoid them. That's one of the things that we learned we can do with all of the swords cards in the world of tarot, you guys. They help us cut things out. They cut out the fat. They also can be very wounding to ourselves and others. So it's you just be very careful and thoughtful about how you wield your words in the days to come. But I would say your early stage 2026 kind of area of suggestion and focus will be to clear your mind, to release confusion, to release toxic connections. And honestly, you will probably find yourself in a very different position within 30 days or so. Not to say that it's about a monthly thing, but Nine of Swords, I would say all the nines in the world of tarot, except for one, are somewhat short term energies. We can get stuck in them. Like I would say, an example of a nine you could get stuck in would be Nine of Pentacles. A lot of people pause there. People pause at Nine of Swords as well to be overwhelmed. But if you're really smart about how you deprogram yourself and kind of pick apart, your mind's eye and really look at the thoughts, especially if you're one of those people that create stories like what ifs in your mind, like what if this happened? You get stuck in the emotion of it. The Nine of Swords asks you to pick it apart piece by piece. And so it's a very interesting energy. Don't take it as a bad sign. Nine of Swords will help you by releasing worry. Anyway, next up, I hope that helps. It's Andromedan. So I'm going to take a couple from upper in the chat, then I'm going to scroll back down to the bottom. You can greatly aid me by hitting the like button and sharing this video if you feel so inclined. This is for Andromedan. Thanks for hanging out. Areas of focus for 2026 for Andromedan. Here we go. We're going to see it together. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Whoa, hello. Andromedan, you got a Four of Pentacles. And so when we say, what do we need to know for the cycle of time ahead? I'm going to be very direct. This is the year or the opportunity or just this is the time, we could say, for you to crawl out of the box that you have created for yourself, the restrictions that you have placed upon your well-being, the self-protection mechanisms and behaviors that you still hold on to in this life. The Four of Pentacles is the safest, probably the safest card in the entire world of tarot. No one can take anything from this character. No one can do anything to this character. No one will also really even see this character. And, you might have needed to be a little bit more hidden for good reasons. But the reality is, whatever the reason is, Four of Pentacles is obscured and it's stagnated. And I mean, you can see the image of it. It's, he's got a lot going on there and he doesn't necessarily look happy. But one thing will happen is they will remain very, very safe. It's just the thing is, nothing changes. And so I would say take this as a sign as you go into 2026 to really put yourself out there in a new way, to show up socially in a different way, to crawl out of the expectations that have been placed upon you by your social mannerisms and the ways that you react and respond to the world, to create new pathways within that, and to honestly just jump out of the version of yourself that you've been sitting too comfortably in. because ultimately at its heart, Four of Pentacles is about remaining comfortable and safe versus exposing ourselves and allowing the value that we hold to be seen in a new way. Because here's the thing, one thing we can definitely say about you is that you have a lot of value that the world has not yet seen. How would we know that? How could we say that? Well, I mean, look at it. You're sitting on it. It's under your feet. You're clutching it. You're wearing it on your head. You know what I mean? Those are all symbols that denote a person holding items of great value. But the problem is, Four of Pentacles will come into your life and nothing will happen. You'll just be sitting there like, and no one can do anything and take anything from you. And don't worry, you won't die. No bad things will happen to you, which is very, very strong reality. Four of Pentacles is incredibly safe. It's just they don't experience a lot of change unless they kind of challenge themselves or allow themselves to be seen or heard in a new way. And so I hope that helps. Thank you, Andromedan. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the chat. If there's anyone else that would like a reading, you can state it again, or I'm just going to start doing random calling on people. We're going to go upward and start grabbing some randoms. Here's one. Reading, please. Permia, Utah. What's ahead for me for 2026? Well, I'm not trying to be sarcastic or what's the word, facetious. One thing we can say is there's a lot, but what we're going to do is take a look at kind of immediacy. And why do I say more immediate energies? Because I don't use astrology, and what we're really looking at is energetic momentum or areas of opportunity as kind of denoted through the cards. Or and I'm going to already say it to you per Meow, Utah. I feel throat energy for you. And so it feels like this is just an area that you have opportunity to work with. Just your voice, your tone of voice, the way that you speak, the truth that emits from the body, what is not said, all of the things, all of the speech, all the words, all the messages that are compressed within the body. You're entering a cycle in which, if you're willing to speak very, very differently, you're going to notice a lot of changes. And I'm not here to say I can tell you in what way to speak differently. You might be refining your speech, you might be softening your tone, you might also be becoming much more fiery and bold. Um, so I think that's one for you to kind of look at in your own time. Just granted, because we're doing one card readings here, but throat chakra for you is an area of opportunity. How would I know, for those of you guys that are watching, what would cause me to say such a thing? Where do I gauge that information? One of the things I've noticed over the years is when I will connect with a person's energy, and a lot of you guys already know this, but for those of you guys that are new, one of the ways in which I connect with people's energy is often by taking a breath in of their energy. And what I'll do is I kind of like breathe in what I believe to be, the essence or the energy of that person. And immediately upon doing it, and it's sort of like a split second reaction that takes place, I tend to feel a place within the body, or I'll see a place within the body, or I'll hear a place within the body. I would say the most common one is that I'll hear it, although that opens a door for a really weird, convoluted explanation, because I'm not sure how to really articulate the way in which I hear it. But to try to shorten it, I'll take a breath in of a person's energy, and usually it's like I can feel, I'll just feel it in an area. That's why I say it's your throat, or I'll say, it's this place, or the spleen, or the liver. You know what I mean? Because I'll breathe in and it's like, and I guess I've just learned over the years to go with that first rush of information, which coincidentally is also a practice that I think a lot of high level remote viewers train themselves to lean into. The first initial burst. The first initial burst of information, in my opinion and experience, is usually going to be the most correct one. And then there's several other bursts of information that come after that, usually that are somewhat moderated and changed and altered by our own subconscious. And, then there's even ones that we change knowingly within the moment. But I think for those that want to practice that, it's a tried and true method. Tried and true method. One of these days, you'll do that with a person. You'll take a breath of their energy and you will experience sensations and fragments of memories that are not yours. You'll be like, what the fuck? You'll blow your mind, man. You will blow your mind what you're capable of receiving, the depth of data. Doesn't always mean that it's usable data. I got to be real with that. People ask me that a lot over the years. You just go around and it's like, all these things about people? Absolutely not. And I think most people who are professional psychics will say that's not how it works. You're not walking around the room bumping into random people going, "Oh, I see your future and your past and all of the definitely no. What I will say though is I do tend to feel vibrations of wounding that come from other people at times, meaning people will just sort of be holding or having a tremendous amount of emotion or just all kinds of compressed energy in the body. And I will definitely feel that. And I think everybody feels that. Even if you don't know what it is at this stage of the game, most of us, probably all of us, are feeling that in some form. But you don't really get any unfair advantages in your own way. Some people will tell you that, but anyway, this is going to be for Permia, Utah. What's ahead at the beginning of 2026? Let me shuffle one more time. Okay, here we go. Permia, Utah, 3, 2, 1. Boom. Hello. You've received the 8 of Pentacles. Honestly, this is a good year, I would say, or a good cycle or a good beginning of the year for production. It's a weird choice of words, right? Production. What do you mean? You're producing something? Well, if you look at the symbolism of this image right here, even if you've never seen a tarot card in your life, you might notice that it's this young child and he's working and working away at a certain thing. And you look behind him and you notice that things all over the walls. And he's even got another one that he just made. And, he's very dutiful. He's very focused upon his work. And when an 8 of Pentacles comes into your life, that from a surface level perspective, you will probably be experiencing a lot of that, a lot of dutiful hard work and sort of repetitious kind of movements and processes, and the incremental journey of bettering the self and what we're creating by doing it over and over and over again. So you're entering a cycle of repetition, you're entering a cycle of refinement, a cycle of learning. But we could say from another perspective, you also have to be very mindful of doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. You have to be very mindful of if you don't feel like your value is being recognized by the world and you have this energy in your life. Let's say spirit brings you this card and you feel like, man, I've got lots of value and it's not being seen. No one's recognizing it. No one wants it, but I know it's good. Let's say if you're experiencing something like that and you pull this card, it's many cases because the world can't see what you have. They've never seen it. They can't see you. And one of the ways that you become seen is you take all those things that you've created and, you go outside into that world there in the background and you take it to a new destination. And so one of the things we could say for 2026 is that there's new destinations that are available to you that will help you recognize your own worth in this life. Sometimes it's not here. And I think sometimes that's the message that we have to get with the 8 of Pentacles is like we will come into a social group or a place or a business or even a job, or it could even be a relationship. And you'll pray to be recognized for the unique value that you have. And you'll pray that people will see what you've created, and they might not. They might not. And so you have to learn to take it elsewhere. Or at certain stages, you have to expose yourself in a new way. And then it's finally everyone looks at it and they're like, oh my God, you've been doing this in the background this whole time. And you never, oh my God, and you never told anybody. You know what I mean? Back in tarot class, one of the stories that I will tell about the Eight of Pentacles, when it comes to personal abilities or things that you have the potential to create, Eight of Pentacles is sometimes like an experience some of us have with our friends in this world or family members or people you know, where let's say you go to their house for the first time, and maybe some of you have had a friend like this, and you walk in their house and you notice they have all these incredible oil paintings that you've never seen before, and you're like, what the hell? You mean you've been doing this in the background the whole time? Or you come into their house and they've created some grand sculpture, or it turns out they've been creating some piece of software that they're just on their own in the background, and you're like, holy shit, are you serious? You've been doing all this and we never had any idea. That's a big Eight of Pentacles energy. And then the problem that comes with that is that they have to learn how to show it to the world, because usually if you're in an Eight of Pentacles and you have something that the world's ready to receive, you might not think of it as a big deal. It's kind of like your friends where you go to their house, you're like, oh my God, you've been doing all this incredible artwork. I had no idea you were a literal genius. And they're like, yeah, whatever. It's nothing. Seriously. It's not anyway. You know what I mean? And they try to blow it off. That's Eight of Pentacles. And that would also be one of the stages where you're kind of squandering the energy the Eight of Pentacles brings you. And so one of the reasons why I stress this, not only for you, Permiao, Utah, but for everyone else, is that one of the things I've noticed about the community of people that gather around this channel is that they have tremendous varied abilities. It's like they'll be able to do all these like really weird and cool and sometimes amazingly useful random things. And it's like, I think that earlier when I was saying there's this cycle that we're entering where if you're willing to take the leap of faith and show that to the world, I think you will be valued in a new way. And sometimes when you see signs like an Eight of Pentacles, that's the universe, as I'm drooling on myself here, that's the universe telling you they're ready to recognize your value. But you have to show it to people. Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you, Permia, Utah. I hope that helps. Let's do some more readings. Thank you, everyone. Not only am I drooling on myself, but I'm feeling the amazing amounts of congestion rise. So here we are. We're gonna take some allergy medicine together. Ready? Don't worry, it's herbal. So but there we go. So we'll be breathing better in a moment. That has been one of my health experiences over this year. Lots of what we would call congestive stuff, which for those that don't know is a function partially of liver congestion. And I think another part of it has to do with, and I'll say it here, smoking. Another part of it is a smoking related thing, because I notice I get very congested now from that. It's just a thing that's happening. So anyway, who do we have next? Selena says, may we all find our balls in 2026 and protect them. Hell yeah, man. Okay, who else do we have? Who's waiting for readings? Let's keep going. What's up, Felicia? How's it going? You showed up right at the right moment. Reading, please, for my 2026 journey with King. I hope King's doing good. For those of you guys that don't know out there, King is a horse. I hope he's doing good. Let's pull a card for you. For those of you guys that would like a reading, if you've already asked, put it down in the comments again, and we'll do it for you so I don't have to scroll through. In the meantime, this will be for Felicia. Here we go. Ready? For those of you guiding Felicia as we enter the gateway into 2026, we just ask for areas of focus or anything that needs to be seen regarding her and also her journey with her animal companions in 2026. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Boom. Well, Felicia, you got a cool card. You got the Two of Pentacles, which I know you know in your own way. But for those of you guys that don't know, the Two of Pentacles is we could say all of the twos are a very interesting crossroads moment within your personal journey. And by crossroads, I mean it's often a stage in which you will kind of look around at yourself and your path, and you'll notice the ways in which you might be going slower than others, or sometimes you'll be very aware of the delicate balance that you've been able to maintain. And in other cases, you'll be desiring to, take a leap of faith and jump into a new thing. But, the stakes seem really high, and it can be, it can come with a lot of risk or seeming risk with the two of with with the two of pentacles. And it's a interesting place to be in, because you are going to be presented with a choice in terms of direction. We could say in the days or weeks to come, you might find yourself going, well, am I going to do this, or am I going to do that, or are we going to go here, or are we going to go there? It's usually going to be between, just a few small, I shouldn't say small, but a small amount of directional choices. They could be huge choices, but there'll be a couple of them, and you'll be tasked with understanding what's more appropriate for me right now. What direction am I going to go in? Which is why it gets weird with Two of Pentacles, is because you don't actually have to go in any direction. The Two of Pentacles is what we call a non-mandatory crossroads moment, in which if you're willing to take a leap of faith and shake things up and to drop certain commitments and to really rearrange elements of your life and what you're creating, and to, uniquely devote yourself to one particular path of manifestation, those being the pentacles. If you're willing to do that, the Two of Pentacles gives you sort of a jumping off, or like a springboard effect as you make that choice. But the kicker is that you don't actually have to make a choice, which is why I think for some people, Two of Pentacles is a confusing card, because it's about choices. It's about crossroads. It's about, well, I could go this way, I could go that way. Or you could take option number 3 and remain the same, which, it's not a bad option. I cannot lie. Option 3, in the case of the Two of Pentacles, it's not the worst case scenario. But you will notice you go slower than everyone, and people will pass you by, and you'll notice they've already received things that you kind of should have gotten, or you'll look at them and go, wow, I'm still back here, stuck in this stage. It's not that you're stuck, it's just that the downside of the Two of Pentacles is that we go slower than everyone else. And sometimes that's needed because you're maintaining a delicate balance. But I would say, as you go into 2026, whether it be for you personally or within your relationship as a horse companion and trainer, it's the time to take a risk. And you get to decide how big of a risk. But it is, I think, Two of Pentacles favors risk taking, because it's one of those moments where you'll do something very uncertain, and you're going to find out really, really fast whether it was a good idea or not. And that's not to say it is or it isn't. It's just, the cool thing about Two of Pentacles is that you'll either rise to the occasion or you'll just fall, which sounds kind of cutthroat, right? It's like, what? Wait, what? But yeah, you will. You'll either step off that tightrope and fly and be like, oh my God, I can do it. Or you'll be like, no. And you'll have to start over again in a certain area of your life. And so we could say the stakes are higher in some way than they've been previously. But I guess the good news is there's no penalty for not doing anything. In a Two of Pentacles scenario, remember this, everyone that's trying to understand tarot. In the Two of Pentacles, you have a non-mandatory crossroads. You can take a new direction and a leap of faith, or you could stay the same. There's no penalty for staying the same, other than that you don't change. You'll see friends like that. They get an opportunity, and like you'll come back and check them out 2 years later, and you're like, oh wow, you're literally in the same exact place that you were last time I saw you in 2023. You're still talking the same conversation. Interesting. Anyway, let's keep going. Who else do we have for readings? Put it in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Anchor Haven says, me, please. Totally. If you guys have a moment, please check out Anchor Haven's channel. Maybe we can raise your subscriptions. I do have an interview over there, if you guys want to check it out. It probably pales in comparison to many of the other interviews. I pray that you will. I think the only way we're gonna make it as one of these like communities of people is by helping each other. I know it sounds cheesy. Sorry, here comes cheesy message. Is by helping each other rise in some way. Like all I see from these ultra cool influencer people is that it's like everyone wants to be postured in this high place and like look down on everyone and have these huge followings. And it's like I feel like I've been like the antithesis of that in many ways because it's like the only way we go anywhere is by kind of like bringing other people up in our own wake. And honestly, I'm one of those people that sort of hates fake kind of niche internet micro celebrities. I think that's my own personal thing. Like when I watch something become cool or big or like and I can see that it's been like falsely inflated in some way, I instantly do that like now I hate it. You know what I mean? So that's just me though. So that's why I say subscribe to everybody's channel if you can. If you can. Here we go. Anchor Haven. What's going on in 2026 for the mind body spirit complex known as Julia Anchor Haven? What needs to be seen? Three, two, one, and whoa, look at this. Oh my lord. We said what needs to be seen, Julia, and they gave you like everybody's most feared moment. You know what I mean? Bam, the tower shows its face, and so you know tarot, so I know you'll be like, "Oh, okay." But for those that don't, let's say in a moment like this where you're like, "Spirit, guides, or just energy of the moment, what do you need me to know as I step into a new cycle?" The tower comes in and people get freaked out because they see the image and they're like, "Oh God. Oh Lord, I must have done something wrong. I didn't finish something. I didn't complete a cycle. I'm planning poorly. I'm just, I whatever it is that you're doing, it's not working out, right? Surface level readers, people will say, "Well, your 2026 looks horrible. Huh? Oh my God." No. What it actually tells us more specifically is be very mindful of what it is that you are creating as we enter this cycle. When we really get to know the tower, we understand that it does not guarantee failure of anything. What it talks more about is the way we build structures, the way we build belief systems, the way we build up things in our life, and then try to watch them take form in the physical world. And I guess one of the inherent issues, quite obviously, with the tower is that it'll show up and very quickly, things that we are trying to build that weren't meant to be put into position right now and meant to be rolled out to the world will tend to fail and collapse. It doesn't denote total failure. It's just for smart and wise people, we can take it and use it as a tool to show us where we need to edit, correct, and realign ourselves. And I think that the tower shows up for you at the last day of 2025 to show you number one, I think that you avoided or you left behind a lot of tower moments in your life this year. Things where, because the other side of the tower is where you watch the train wreck as it's happening and you're like, oh, look at this thing that we created. Oh, look, it's falling down around me. It's fine. You know what I mean? Or not fine. The tower will bring those events into your life. And I have this weird feeling you got to watch some of those things take place in your life this year. You're like, "Oh, yeah, that definitely didn't come together. That didn't work out." But see, those are good because that gives you this process of self-editing and a path for self-improvement to look back on it and go, "Okay, I'm gonna build these structures for the year to come on much more solid ground." So I would say you do have to ask yourself from the perspective of like, what do I need to focus on the days ahead? Is you could say, well, you could look at your own internal world and say, what belief systems do I continually reinforce that no longer make sense to me or no longer fit in with what I know to be true and real? Because the tower is not always, false, collapse in physical world. It can be false or collapse of false ideas or, collapse of untruths that we've sort of built up. So you'll look at yourself kind of like how we were doing earlier and saying like, look how much I've changed over the course of this year. Anyway, I could go on it, but this is a smart and helpful thing to receive at the end of one's year because it also shows us, I think, in many ways that you have ensured that this is not a path that you will be going down in the days and weeks to come. And so the good news about that, Anchor Haven, is that whenever I pull one of those cards, we always do another. Sometimes that's a worse choice. Boom. In step two, why? Why did she have a tower? Oh, Lord, because there's going to be some intense stuff because you have the most intense guy in the entire world of tarot. I guess you get to choose if it's going to be blissful intensity or if it's going to be tragic intensity. And I don't mean that playing out in your real life as tragedies. I mean more through mental energies, because as we know, that's the realm of swords. It's our thoughts. It's like kind of our internal world. It's our wit. It's the powers of the mind. It's, the words that we share and sling around with each other. It's the truths that we behold. And let's say, the Knight of Swords comes in and he can bring some difficult truths. He can bring a lot of intensity. That's what he does. He can bring blissful intensity. He can bring chaotic intensity. But I would say you're setting yourself up for a very intense ride this year that I think if used wisely, can propel you in a very, very powerful direction, much farther than you would have gone in other years, we could say. Just be mindful to moderate intensity in general. And I'll leave it there. Sometimes I want to have a microphone to do a mic drop. I think I said this on another broadcast. Maybe it was Patreon. I want to get a fake microphone like a dog's chew toy. And at the end of things, I'll do it in a really cringe manner. I'll just hold it up and be like, which looks lame, right? You're like, oh God, please don't do that. Somebody out there just thought that right at this moment. They're like, oh God, please, please, please don't do that, Matthew. Okay, don't. Too late, I might. Too late. It's only going to get weirder. You know how some people are going to get more insane in 2026? I'm going to get weirder. It's okay. All right, who else do we have? It's New Year's reading season. Tiffany Marie says, Matt in a galactic rap battle. Unfortunately, I'm not a good rapper. I wish I was. I'm not a good rapper. I'd be a better hype man, like in the background going, yeah, yeah, whoop, whoop, like in the background, I'll somehow pulling a huge ass gun out of my waistband, I would be that guy in the crew. Because I don't know, I'm just not a rapper. You know what I mean? I wish I was, though. That would be kind of cool. What's up, Carrie Hanlon? Can I please get a general reading if you have time? What's going on? Yes, we shall pull a card for you. For those of you guiding Carrie Hanlon at this stage of the journey, we're looking for just a card symbolizing areas of focus or interest for her as she goes into 2026. What needs to be seen? Here we go. It's live in the moment. We don't know what's coming out. 3, 2, 1, and whoa, good signs. Yes. Okay. Carrie Hanlon, 88. You have received a very, very good sign. It's temperance, which for some people, they're like, oh, okay, cool, temperance. Yeah, that means what? Man, temperance is rebalancing. Temperance is self-healing. Temperance is self-moderation. It's a path of correction and a balancing of elemental energies within the body. It's also the symbol of the healer. It's the symbol of one who chose in this life to be a bridge between the spirit world and the physical world. In some way, whether large or small, temperance will show up in your path or in your timeline or in your readings to say, one of your greatest priorities for the days and weeks ahead is on self-healing, on self-improvement, but most importantly, upon balancing things within us, around us, outlooks, belief systems, sometimes medical things, health situations, relationships. when we enter into a stage of temperance, we are entering into a stage of balance. And this is also a stage for other people in which we begin to come into contact with the very unique ways in which spirit speaks and works through you. And it can be a many number of ways. But like I said already, one of the things that this card is meant to remind you of is that you are a bridge between the spirit world and the physical world in some form. And you can choose to embrace that, and you can choose to expand upon it, or you can just be a thing that and you'll be like, yeah, okay, cool. You know what I mean? It's really up to you how you want to hold it. But this is what we would call the middle path for the energy of the moment. And honestly, it's a very beautiful sign to get it. I would say, if you're looking at it from a very basic perspective, temperance would signal that in the days and weeks to come, you will be experiencing healing and rebalancing and things in your life. And I would say, if you allow it and don't fight against the stream of what you're experiencing, it can be very healthy and it'll like realign you in some way. But it does come at the cost of you prioritizing yourself and your own self-healing. It's which for some people is hard. I would say that's the hardest thing about temperance, because it is the symbol of the healer in world of tarot. And so it can also, for some people, be times in which you have to stop giving away so much. Like, how much of yourself are you giving away to other people, places, and things? Temperance will say, oh, I got to bring that back in and rebalance it. Anyway, let's keep going. I'm running out of water, you guys. And when the water runs out, so does the live stream. So, anyway, yeah, no, I'm feeling famously dehydrated. Anyway, let's do some more readings. Who else do we have? Somebody hurry up and get in the chat and start saying readings, please, just so I can find you easily. Don't worry, I won't be mad if you spam the chat. Every now and then you have to. That's just the way it works. What's up? Cat L sees you. We saw you, Cat. What's going on? As I'm drooling on myself madly here. Here we go. Yes, I see you guys. Yes, we're going to keep going. We'll do as many as we can. This is for Cat LCZ. What's happening? What do we need to know for 2026? I would say the good news for me in 2026. Get ready for some cheesy news. You're going to be like, what? Good news for me, good cycles of change was definitely, like I said, health improvements in a really big way. And I've talked about this ad nauseum on other live streams, but I'll say it again. I would say, when I look at 2025, one of the best things we ever did was move from Florida to Austin, Texas. One of the best choices I've made in the last decade, I would say, was moving to Texas, which is weird, right? You'd be like, what? Why Texas? Well, I don't think it's so much about Texas per se as it was about, there was something very physically unhealthy that was affecting me in Florida, that so much so I noticed as soon as I left there, all kinds of stuff changed, like water weight has been changing. I had been losing, it's just so much. I could go on and on about it. I had so much inflammation, and a lot of you guys know, because I've said it, I believe it was due to extreme mold exposure. But when I look at like moments of gratitude for 2025, that's one of the ones where I'm like, man, I'm so glad we took the leap of faith to leave that area. And maybe I'm supposed to talk about that, because some of you guys are going to take a leap of faith and move somewhere in the coming year. But man, so much changed. It's wild. Yeah. And then I got to Texas and gained like 20 pounds. And now I'm like, but now I have to worry about that. But you know what I mean? Like previously, oh Lord, I was so sick earlier this year. And in kind of like in ways where you don't really realize that you are, because it had become normal for you. Those ones where you're like, what? Anyway, let's go back to Cat L. Here we go. For Cat L's, we go into 2026 areas of focus that you guys would like her to be aware of. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. It came back. Sometimes that's my fault. Sometimes it's because you need to see it. The good news is, Cat, I'll pull another card for you. I like to do that sometimes when we get double cards. I would say in some ways because sometimes as you add a lot of energy going through and like doing these readings on like lives, the cards will come back to you just because they have more of like a tangible vibration on them. So it's like you can accidentally pull the same card again, or at times it's because you need to hear the message. So we're going to give you the message and then we'll give you an original one. But you probably already heard this, Cat L. You are approaching what we would call a crossroads year, in which you will be given opportunities to go in very, very new directions, to drop things that you've been holding on to sometimes for many years, and to really take a leap of faith into something new, in which, I think you're very well prepared for it. You've been maintaining a delicate balance in your life, but you do have to ask yourself, in what areas am I going more slowly than others? In what places am I holding or carrying too much? You know what I mean? Like yeah, how much am I holding on to? What balances am I maintaining in my life? Those are questions you could ask yourself. And just remember though, when you do have this, which is weird. It's kind of self-defeating for some people, but to be totally honest with you, when you do have a 2 of Pentacles, the reality is you don't actually have to take the crossroads. You can just be like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just gonna stay on this tightrope and continue to maintain the delicate balance that I've been maintaining." And there's really no penalty for that other than you will get to watch the world pass you by, which for some people is very hard, and you're like, "No," but that will happen. That's the downside of 2 of Pentacles, guys. If you don't make a decision and, take a risk at your crossroads moment, you don't suffer, but you just watch everyone, like, go on without you, and it's like, they'll come back just like I was saying, and you'll see your friends 2 years later, and they're just still making the same decision, "I swear to God, I'm about to do it," type thing, which sometimes is more of a 9 of wands as well. But anyway, before I go too far, we'll give you one other, a quick one. Here we go. Very quick. For Cat L, she had a 2 of wands or 2 of pentacles. What else is there? Here's a character we haven't seen in a while. Cat L and anyone else that needs to hear this. There's also a 4 of cups. I would say you might even be in a 4 of cups right now. You might be entering a stage of a 4 of cups. What happens in the cycles of 4 in the world of tarot? Some of you guys will know this. In the cycle of 4, everyone pauses. They pause to practice, they pause to examine, they pause to rest. Sometimes, they pause for other reasons. When the 4 of cups comes into your life, you may find yourself not doing a whole hell of a lot. You may find yourself kind of sitting there most days, just staring off into space or imagining what could be and asking a lot of questions in the process. You'll be aware of deficits in your life. You'll be aware maybe that things aren't exactly as they're supposed to be. And you'll look at those 3 cups in front of you and you'll ask questions about them. Why are they here? What do I have 3 cups for? What am I supposed to put in those cups? Where's the 4th cup? You're going to be asking a lot of questions. There's a lot of internal wondering in the cycle, a lot of pondering. And then a day comes in which you look at the situation from a different perspective. You know what I mean? Kind of like this person sitting in front of the tree. One day they go do that thing where they're like, "Oh my God, there it was, right there, the thing I was looking for." That moment of epiphany. So one thing we could say for you, Cat L, is that in the coming days and weeks ahead, you might judge yourself for not doing as much as you know you could. You might find yourself, you're probably just wasting time, and that's appropriate. For anyone out there that pulls this card and you're wondering, what should I do? How am I supposed to be? What do you ask of me? Whoever you choose to connect with, when you're in a 4 of cups scenario, you're probably not going to be doing anything. And that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be sitting there going, that's probably what you're going to be doing. So don't beat yourself up. If you come into that stage, it'll be good for you. All the fours are very temporary, but people trip out when you get a four card because the way it plays out is things usually pause. And it's like that can be very uncertain for some people. Sometimes you'll beat yourself up if you're a person that's used to working and working and working and working. A four of cups scenario will come into your life and you'll just pause there and sit there and be like, like, well, I don't know what to do, type of a thing. You know what I mean? And it can be a weird moment. Can be a weird moment. Oh, and I saw a super chat come in. Thank you for that. Oh, it was White Swan. Thank you. She said reading. Oh, hey, reading for Heidi. Yeah, totally. What's up, Heidi? I think you were here earlier. She might still be here. Here, we'll keep it on the screen for a moment. Oh, I see it. I see it in the chat now. Sorry, you guys know how it is. I get swept up in the moment. I get swept up in the moment. Does anyone have any other 2026 predictions that you want to mention while I'm getting ready to do a reading for Heidi? 2026 predictions. One of my predictions I shared on Typical Skeptic podcast chat the other night. One of my predictions for 2026 is that we will discover that George Floyd is still alive and he will be brought into the J.D. Vance administration in 2028 as a cultural sensitivity czar. You know how they call somebody a czar? You're the immigration czar. He's going to be the cultural sensitivity czar. He's going to be in the JD Vance administration, George Floyd. And they will also announce that they have created an AI version of Charlie Kirk that's available as a chatbot setting on Chat GPT. And so anyone that needs, some words of wisdom, they will find that they had uploaded all of his talks and all of his speech into Chat GPT. And it can be this thing where, you'll talk to Charlie, so get ready for that. That's going to be a sad one. It might not be him, but it'll be another person that's famous in like the near future. That's a real prediction. I'm saying it humorously, and I'm also saying it, seriously. Not necessarily Charlie Kirk, but you're gonna find this. I absolutely promise it. You can remember this moment. Within the next year, or 2 or 3, you will have the ability to speak with a famous person that has passed on through an AI chatbot. And it will be a collection of all of their messages, all of their writings, and even in some cases, personal input that they gave to tech companies and other researchers prior to passing on that will allow them to create a very well formed likeness of that person in that sort of artificially intelligent space, and people are going to be talking to it. You know what I mean? Get ready. Somebody will be chatting with the Abraham Lincoln AI, or the David Bowie AI. And what's wild is if you look back years ago, there was a couple announcements that came out from celebrities where they were saying stuff. I remember the one specific one that I remember, and you guys can look this up. I've mentioned this on other live streams. The one I recall seeing was Deepak Chopra mentioning that he had been a part of a project in which his consciousness or all of his work would be uploaded into, at that time they were calling it the cloud, I think that was the word they were using, but that all of his data would be uploaded so that people of the future would be able to interact with him. And you're going to see it. I absolutely guarantee it. That is one that I hold firm on. The other crazy one, which might not happen, but I think it will, because unfortunately, I think we did sign up for this timeline. I mentioned this other one on somebody. I think it was also on Typical Skeptic. I do believe that in the years to come, we will see a horrible abomination take place, and that abomination will come in the form of a male body giving birth to a human fetus. I'm not saying it will be successful. I'm saying that it will be publicized if it has not been already. Maybe it has, but they'll biologically force it, and it looks very, very bad. It looks like an ugly thing that they have kind of planned for that one. But yeah, I do think we're going to see more of that, more of the, as they say, the man-made like abominations or like what's the phrase? Trying to find it again. Anyway, I can't find that phrase. Some of you guys know what it is. Yeah. It's a crazy thing. They've been sort of hinting at it for a while. I know that sounds very doom and gloom and kind of black pill for a lot of people, but I do think they're gonna try to force it upon us in some form or another. Um, yeah, Aurora Diamondheart said it. Yes, yes, literally that. Returning to the sins of Atlantis. Absolutely. Yeah, missing time. You got it. Absolutely. Chimeras. Totally. Not that it's coming in 2026. It's just we will see it. I feel very, very strongly we will see that. I'm not saying in a celebratory way. I'm just saying, like, get ready. Shit's going to get weird. But in the meantime, let's do a reading for Heidi Pop LA. Oh, I do have another quick prediction for the very, very near future. My personal prediction is I'm probably gonna get a haircut really, really soon. I'm having that. You guys, we all go through it. Those moments where you feel like you're just expanding into like a mushroom head. Some of you guys know what that feels like. Like as I look at myself, I'm like, God, okay, I'm gonna get a haircut immediately. Anyway, for Heidi Pop LA as she moves into 2026. Literally moving, we just ask anything that needs to be seen or shown at this stage of her journey, areas of focus, perhaps. Here we go. Whoa, hello. Wow, this is a cool moment, Heidi. And I got to really stress the organic spontaneity through which this card just popped out. You guys will see this as I do this. I don't front load the cards. We just reach in and just pull out whatever comes out. And it's amazing to note that Heidi, you received the 10 of wands. So why is this amazing? Somebody out there knows. This is the symbol of moving on. This is literally the number one symbol of moving on from stuff and things and moments in your life. Just like I saw you writing on Facebook, where you're in the midst of packing, or on some chat stream I saw you the other night. We all hang out on the same shows, but it's like this is literally that symbol. This is the symbol that shows up at a time in a person's life where you gather all your things, you choose all your stuff, and you go, okay, I'm heading down the road. I'm going all the way out there to that place way off in the distance. And I cannot stress the spontaneity through which it showed up. We never know what is coming out of here. And it's just really cool to be like, whoa, this actually applies to your world in a way right now. So, anyway, now that I've said that, let's tell the story. You might have already heard this, but like we said, the 10 of Wands comes into your life in a time of closure. Every 10 that you receive in the world of tarot denotes a closure of some sort, whether large or small. And 10 of Wands is a number one card that gets pulled for people when they're in the process of moving or moving house, as they say in other countries. And sometimes you're moving on to another job, so it's not always about moving your home. Sometimes it's career shifts or other notable departures. But it's important to mention that this is what we call the neutral departure. By neutral departure, I mean it is neither a celebration nor is it a tragedy. And I have to be very specific about that. It's neither of those. However, what it is entirely what you make of it. And I know we could say that for literally anything in this world, but really the story of 10 of Wands is that, well, we can't see your face. So we don't actually know how you feel about this process of change that you're going through. And that's where we discern that it's more about how you feel about the 10 of Wands. For some people, the 10 of Wands is, let's gather our shit and get the hell out of here. For other people, it's like, I'm done. I'm leaving. For other people, it's like, wow, am I really going to do it? Okay, here we go. All right. You know what I mean? Gather this thing, gather your stuff. We're heading down the road. It could be a lot of those things. But one thing that comes with it is certain questions. And these are questions that anyone that receives this card could ask yourself, whether you're actually leaving town or whether you're just in a cycle of change. And so, hold on here. So I'm sort of like foaming at the mouth trying to get these words out here. But anyway, these are the questions you must ask yourself, Heidi Pop and anybody else. The questions you must ask yourself with the 10 of Wands are: number one, what am I running away from? If I am moving, what am I running away from? It's not to say that you're running away. It's not to say that you're fleeing. We're not assigning escapism to you. We're just asking the question. This is a question you can ask yourself through your neutral departure cycle right now. You just examine it. What am I running away from? Is there anything that I'm trying to flee from in my life? Anything that I'm hoping to leave behind? It's not like you're running fearfully, but anything where you're like, well, I'm not taking that with me. That's not coming wherever. Hell no, I don't want that either. So you do kind of have to look at that. So you'll say, number one, what am I running away from? And then number two, you must ask yourself, what am I running toward? What am I running toward? What am I running away from? And what am I running toward? And that's when we say, what is it? What expectations do we have the road ahead? How do we want to be received in the new destination that we're going to be at? All of those sort of existential and occupational kind of physical world related questions. Why do I say that? Because that's the realm of wands. It's the element of fire. It's physicality. It's like what you actually do in this world. And so ask yourself those questions and understand that, if that is the cycle that you're in with yourself right now, just know that it feels very appropriate. It feels very appropriate. But I will also say this card aside, I don't know about you. This is just me. This is where I'm giving an opinion now. Um, to me, moving is like a trauma, man. Like, to me, it's traumatic. It's like I don't take moving well. I don't, which is weird because over the past few years we've moved across the country and back and forth more than I ever had in this life, and I actually don't handle it very well. To be totally honest with you, so maybe some of us do. I'm not a good traveler. But anyway, thanks, Heidi. I hope that helps, man. Good luck out there on new journeys. Let's just find. So we're gonna do a couple more here, okay, guys. I see Tiffany Marie. What's going on? Your comment was in the right place at the right time. We're gonna do a reading for Tiffany Marie. Actually, I think we're at the stage of the journey where we're gonna make a slight costume shift before I have a wardrobe malfunction. Yeah, that is much easier. Anyway, sorry. You guys, I try not to wear the sunglasses on every live stream because I know people make fun of it and will kind of snicker behind it, and that's totally fine. But the reality is I can definitely see the screen much better with it. So, whatever. Anyway, okay, this is going to be for Tiffany Marie. For Tiffany Marie. Here we go. Is there any areas of focus, anything that she needs to be aware of or needs to be seen for 2026 as we go forward into a new cycle? Here we go. Tiffany Marie, remember, we're seeing this together. I don't front load cards, you guys. We're doing it, boom, right in the moment, which there's good things about that. There's not so good things about it. I just I'll just be real. I don't know. I'm not trying to actually, yeah, I'll just be totally real. I do pride myself on having instant engagement when it comes to beginning a reading or connecting with spirit or starting to perceive a person's energy. One of the things I do actively strive for and practice is to open the door and immediately engage. And some people have a very different approach and they'll sit with it and they'll sort of allow it to permeate their energy field and they'll more kind of like They'll sit there with it for a while. I take pride in like, boom, we pull a card and we go, or we get a person's name and we just roll. And, I think that that has distinct advantages, some disadvantages. But anyway, here we go. Tiffany Marie, we're going to do it together live in the moment. Three, two, one, and boom. Congratulations. You have a timeline shift opportunity, Tiffany Marie, as it pertains to the element of air and swords. What are swords in this world? You might have heard me talk about it already, but it's your communication. It's your tone of voice. It's the words that you speak. It's the way that you speak them. It's the clothes that you wear. It's the way that you style your hair and the body language that you display. It's every single thing about how you present yourself to the outer world, from your voice to your appearance, all the way down the line. Some smart people would say, well, it's not just those things. You're right. You're right. It's a little bit more than that. But in generality, the element or just the suit of swords, rather, encompasses all of those things. And when you have swords, it's also the power of the mind. It's highly intuitive. And so let's say the ace of swords comes in the room, which is what you have today, and that's why I say you have a timeline shift opportunity ahead of you. In 2026, you have an ability to change everything about the way the world is receiving you, about the way people listen to you, about the way they receive your words and take your advice and really put weight and respect behind what it is that you're saying. When you have strong swords in this life, you can say anything to anyone and they will receive you. And so when you have a cycle of change, or say, an ace of swords, this is a really big time for you to look at, what are my cycles of communication? Like, how does it go for me communicating in relationships and in, workplace things? And like, am I good at getting my needs met? Am I bold about speaking up? Am I too bold about speaking up? Do I say the wrong things at the wrong times, or do I not say anything when I know I should? In some cases, you'd never been acknowledged and no one ever really held value to your words, and that can affect you as well. But the Ace of Swords is about finding your cycles of communication, your cycles of thought, your cycles of intuition, and taking those cycles and shattering them, breaking them, doing things very, very differently, things that sometimes might shock other people. Just be mindful, you could do it the wrong way, so make proper choices. But basically, what this authorizes you to do is to speak very, very differently, like very differently, to say things that you never thought you would ever say to people. And yeah, you might dial it back. You might be like, "Oh shit, sorry." But that's part of the process. When you have the ace of swords in your life, you have to play the game differently. And you'll know that you've done it right because suddenly people will listen to you differently and they'll be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay. All right." You know what I mean? You will be received in a new way. So we could say that's your area of focus for the beginning of 2026, which also, like, if you're wondering what area of my body does that apply to, that's the throat. It's your throat chakra, which I guess is like a cyclical area of interest for a lot of people. But anyway, I hope that finds you well. Let's keep going. Thank you, Rami Salem. They say just wear sunglasses if your eyes feel better. They do actually. They do actually. I think that even at 48 years old, I still have shards of fear about social judgment. Although you wouldn't really think so because of how much I act like I don't give a shit, but I think everyone does a little bit, right? You know what I mean? I would be real if I was like always tuning into this dude's live stream and he was making a lot of jokes like me, and I would honestly be into it, but other people would be like, oh god, you know what I mean? So Andromedan had a good question. What year was the mall alien? As I really drool on myself here, you guys will see this live on the internet. Andromedan said, "What year was the mall alien?" I think was that 2023, 2020. Oh, missing time got it. 2024. It probably was. I have to be honest with you. I didn't really buy into the mall alien. It just didn't. It's like I'm trying not to be that like ultra skeptical person and just judge it by the energy or what I perceived of it. And it just didn't feel like what everyone was making it out to be, especially those scenes where some being was walking down the street past the police cars or something like that. And it was like everything about it looked just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I was not able to get behind the mall alien. I just couldn't. I still can't. Still can't to this very day. But I'll be real, I also can't get behind, they shot our boy in the ear and somehow he just walked away with nothing. I don't know how. I can't follow that one either, you know? But that's a whole other combination, a conversation. Yes, I do believe the Trump shooting was staged. Just being honest. It's just my personal opinion, you know what I mean? That was 2024, right? That was why I was saying that. 20, yeah, because we were talking about the year of the mall alien. I think that was the same year, right? It was 2024, right? Totally. The mall alien was fake and gay. Oh Lord. Uh Girl and her gong says are taking a short trip to Antarctica. Hell yeah. One of my New Year's resolutions is to visit Antarctica this year. Do you guys think it's possible? You know how all the smooth and cool, like, spiritual disclosure starseed influencers, it's like if you wanna be a ultra cool niche internet celebrity starseed influencer, you have to do a retreat, right? You have to do a retreat, of course, and so I've decided in this now moment that we're gonna do a retreat, but it's not a retreat. We're gonna do a group trip to Antarctica. How can we set that up? That'll be my retreat, the one that I bring in. I'm like, fuck a retreat, dude. We're not gonna go to Sedona and like diddle ourselves, and like under the moonlight and look at distant stars and satellites and decide it's the Arcturians. No, we're not doing that. We're going straight. We're going straight to Antarctica. Oh Lord, we're going straight to Antarctica. Anchor Haven says, talk to Brad Olson. I don't know, man. If I was gonna go to Antarctica, actually wanted to step foot on the continent, I would probably talk to Eric J. Hecker. But I do enjoy Brad a lot. I definitely. But there's a bunch of opinions on both sides. But uh, anyway, let's do some more readings, shall we? 2026. Remember your mission. Group mission number one, the journey to Antarctica. 12 people will go, 9 people will return. What? It's like, wait a minute, what? Only 9 people? Some might choose to stay. Some might get, lost in the process. Maybe it'll be a little bit like Project Serpo. Do you guys know about Project Serpo, which a lot of people say was fake? They say that in Project Serpo, which was an alien exchange, it was an alien human exchange program essentially, that some of them they did not come back. A few people chose to remain. One person died on the journey there, and I think it was a couple people remained when apparently it was time for them to return back to Earth at the end of Project Serpo, which is probably a conglomerate of a bunch of different programs and stories all put together. I don't know that it really tracks as one full-fledged entire kind of experience. It looks like they kind of put together a couple programs and called them under that, but when it came time for them to come back, a couple of people stayed, which is weird. I think I would have probably gone back as well. How do you go back to Earth after living, what was it, 13 years on another planet with like physical ETs? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that Project Serpo itself, like the whole story, is exactly what happened, but what I do believe is that the story itself is a conglomeration of real events that took place. And I absolutely do believe that people did actually. There have been multiple human ET exchange programs. I know somebody said Serpo was brought out by Richard Doty. I do understand that to be the case, but I think that there's a lot more to it than just the fact that it got dropped as like disinfo from a known disinfo agent. I think that it still plays into that, that 80/20 rule, you know what I mean? Could be 20% real or it could be 80% fake or vice versa, but they'll give you at least something real to grab onto. And I don't know, for me that's kind of what it was. But Why Swan says this convo is making me feel secondhand stoned. I wish I was. Maybe we will be later. You never know. You never know. Anyway, Tiffany says, "I agree with your statement. Possibly for breeding, probably, totally. It's still a fascinating story. I would say when I first even came upon Project Serpo and the book, I can't even remember the name of the book by Len Caston. It was like even at that stage of my life, I could tell that I was like, this is a very interesting mix of like real and fake together. And I think one of the challenges is to, discern which one is which. Not that we ever will, but anyway, maybe we're all a little stoned in some way. Oh, nice. Girl and her gong is cool. Okay, good. You're in the right place. Missing time says I have the ability to quantum entangles you. Oh shit. You're sending it across the dimensional planes. Okay. Honestly, I think that's beautiful. Okay, we're gonna do some more readings. We're gonna do a couple more and then we're gonna get out of here. Okay, you guys. We're gonna keep it under 3 hours. Let's keep going. Oh, what's up? It's Rita. How's it going, Rita? It's been so long. Are Afraid says would love a reading. Totally. Let's pull a card for you. Thought I saw you flying by in the chat. I knew it. Okay, so this is going to be for Are Afraid, for those of you guys currently assisting in this now moment on the earth plane. Wow, I'm really drooling on myself today, everybody. We're just asking if there's any areas of focus that she needs to be made aware of in the days to come. Um, just anything for 2026. Here we go. We'll see it together. 3, 2, 1. Boom. All right. It's the world. Very, very interesting. What happens when the world comes into your readings? Well, let's say, especially in a time like this, which, we're closing out one cycle of time, beginning a new one, the world's going to come into your readings to tell you that you are in a stage of enhanced manifestational ability, meaning that whatever you're the most focused on, whatever you're the most fixated upon, is going to show up in your life with remarkable quickness, with astounding accuracy. It's one of those stages that comes around every so often. Sometimes it lasts for a month, sometimes it's a week, sometimes it's for a long period of time. But it's just one of those times where we say, be very careful what you wish for. Be very mindful of what you're focused on, because the world as an energy that enters your life tends to act very much like a magic mirror. And whatever you hold up in front of that magic mirror, the world will then turn around and say, "Oh, this, here you go. Here you go. That's what she wants. All right, we'll give her that." And it could be anything. It could be the fears that you continue to have rolling through your mind's eye. It could be stagnancy that we continue to kind of rest in. It could also be incredible change and an ability to go farther, faster than you've gone many years before. It just asks us to be very, very mindful of what we are focusing on, because the world will give it to you. And to me, it's a really cool thing to have. Just like I said, I guess I'm saying it for the third time in the row. This Be careful what you wish for, and allow yourself to become obsessed with good things. Because one of the things that happens when the world energy enters your life, or however long it's there, whatever we're obsessed with tends to take shape around us in just this shocking way. Shocking. And so obsess yourself with positive change, with good feeling things. I know that sounds kind of, trite and love and light, but seriously, obsess yourself with good feeling things. Obsess yourself with joyful things. Obsess yourself with activities that are expanding you in some direction, because this will greatly reinforce it. The thing is, it only lasts so long. That's kind of the kicker about the world as an energy. It only lasts so long. So it's like, use it while you got it, man. Use it while you have it. So I would say one thing you can do right now with the world, and other people are going to have this energy as well. So like, if you feel like it's about you, it's also about you. But this is a very, very good time to choose a goal or a thing that you want to create in your life, and let yourself become obsessed, to where you're so obsessed with it that you look at it on your phone as soon as you wake up in the morning, and you keep talking about it with everyone around you, and everyone's like, "Oh God, shut up, please. All you talk about is just that again and again." You're like, "Yes, that's what you want to do." When you have the world in your readings, they're telling you to engage in that type of behavior, because that's how you're going to create something. And you will. So I guess be be mindful of what you're creating. Be mindful of your focus. And I pray that that helps. Thank you for hanging out with us. Flixlove says, I had pyramid shaped licorice today. Now, histamine reaction, powerful stuff. Histamines are a trip, man. Definitely coming into the greater collective consciousness over the past few months, has it not? It certainly has. I, I gotta be honest with you. I can't tolerate anything that's licorice flavor. I just, Lord, I just cannot. It's like, I can't stand the taste of it. So I'm sorry to hear that. But anyway, we're going to do, let's see, what time is it? We're right at our cutoff point. We're going to do one last reading, and then we're going to run out the door wildly. Who will our last reading be for today? Nobody knows. I'm going to grab the first person in the chat that says reading. So if you're fast and you can enter reading at the bottom of the chat right now, it's going to be you, whoever the first person is. Whoever that may be. Missing time says light language, please. Maybe I will. Careful what you wish for. careful what you wish for. Oh, there we go. I saw it. True Ray 333. What's going on? Okay, where did it go? You were blazing past. Here we go. True Ray. What's going on? I guess it's right on time, you guys, because we're at the end of the water. Okay, here we go. For True Ray. Thanks for hanging out all day today, you guys. Anyone out there that wants to be guaranteed to get a reading in the weeks to come, this is a thing that we do every month over on Patreon, myself and my wife, Honora, who's probably like a mystery to those of you on YouTube who have never been to Patreon. You'll be like, who? She's never been. I know, right? She's never been. She doesn't show up on YouTube. Well, not in human form, at least. But anyway, we will be doing this once again the second week of January. And so every month we do collective readings for every single person that shows up. All you got to do is go over to Blue Flame Collective on Patreon, Blue Flame Collective, and you will get a reading every single month. You do have to come to the group, though. you do have to. I would say the cost is like minimal, but it is at times a long hangout. So because sometimes a lot of people show up, and anyway, I think it's a really good way to get exposed to what it's like to receive real-time professional intuitive readings in, I would say, an environment that I believe to be non-parasitic and non-manipulative, and not like, just one of the things I saw in the early stages of this journey that I still see now is readers that try to put people in a certain box. and say you're this, you're that. And it's like there's I feel that when you really learn how to connect intuitively to people's energy, you can divulge any message in a way that is instantly received rather than it be something that is projected upon that person. You know what I mean? I think one of the things I've noticed over the years is that we've been able to keep things useful value and specific to people without going over the line into dictating other people's reality. At least I would like to think that we've done a good job at that. And I think we do because people keep coming back after all this time. So I'm like, I guess we sort of did it right. But anyway, sorry, True Ray. I was going to do your reading, but you can join us second week of January. Here, I'm going to put it on the screen while we do reading for True Ray. I saw the link go by. Thank you, Selena. Okay, True Ray. Here we go. For those of you assisting, True Ray, anything that needs to be seen or acknowledged or just heard for the coming days ahead. True Ray. Actually, I will say we're going a slightly different direction. Just a little bit of an area of focus for the energy body. Just work with your digestive system, work with your intestines. Work, if you can, on purging out past energy from the large intestine specifically. The reason why I say that is because, just like I was saying earlier, people's energy will kind of come in the door, and at times there's like an immediate vibration or an immediate kind of tone. It sounds crazy. There's like a tone that I'll hear. And I've just learned over the years which ones go where, and it's yeah, I would say large intestine. And so I would also imagine that you've worked through a lot of things from your past over 2025, that you had to let a lot of things go, old expectations, older versions of you, older relationships, a bunch of things that had weighed you down from a previous cycle were closed off in the year of 2025. And I would say now, one of the things that you can do to really help yourself set the stage for the road ahead will be by clearing the intestines of just old energy, just old stuff. And so, yes, I feel that sounds dumb. Feel pretty strongly saying that. It comes forward easily. I would say it could going all the way back to, like, I don't know, 2017, maybe even before that. But here we go. We'll pull a card for you. True Ray in 3, 2, 1, and boom. Hello. Well. It's actually a pretty good guy to get. Here, let me get this off the screen for a second so we can see him. True Ray, you got the Six of Pentacles. Look at this guy. Sometimes it's hard to see on your screen in here because it's a complex image and it's drawn old world style, so it's a little blurry. But what do we see in the Six of Pentacles? This is what we would call a depiction of a rich man. How do we know he's rich? Well, look at all these extravagant colors. And look at all this gold that he's wearing. And look, he's got this scale. So, maybe he's balancing things out. And, look at down here. Hopefully you can see this. Maybe you can't. There's all these hands coming out and there's money changing hands. And this is a very good energy to have if you're looking toward a cycle in which the world is ready to receive and to exchange the value that you hold. Depending on what you perceive that to be, the Six of Pentacles says, we're ready for you to start trading with other people. We're ready for you to begin to invest yourself in it differently. The world's going to show you that you're valuable. They're going to ask you for things. They're going to give you things. And that's where you have to be very mindful, because this is the type of card that'll come into someone's life when they're about to start a new business or a new venture of sorts or a new process of offering something to the world. And whatever you're offering to the world in this moment, in the Six of Pentacles, is often very valuable. And that's where you have to be mindful of your exchange. Be sure that you're receiving what you feel you're worth, or be mindful to just look at that. Like, am I receiving what I think I'm worth right now from the world? A lot of us would say no. But the good news about Six of Pentacles is when it comes into your life, Spirit's trying to tell you you have a major opportunity to balance the scales in your life and to benefit in a way that you weren't able to benefit from previously. And so Six of Pentacles comes in and you can gain a lot in a very, very short period of time. You can get a lot really, really quickly. And the bad news is, if you're not careful, you'll gain a lot really, really quickly, and then you'll lose it really, really quickly. So it's like, could be very lucrative. I would also say, like, let's just say from a basic worldly perspective, for most people, you guys, when you see these pentacles, I know, I'm going like extreme close up. Somebody said that extreme close up. Why? Because it's such a blurry image. I imagine it's hard to see for everybody at at home. This is the Robin Wood Tarot, just so you know. It's the Robin Wood Tarot. It's the only tarot. I'm going to say that like a commercial. It's the only tarot I use. Like a cheesy commercial, so to speak. But the Six of Pentacles is very good for making money. If that's a cycle that you're looking for in your life, and you're like, man, should I start a business right now? Will I even make money doing that thing? Six of Pentacles is like, hell yeah, you will. Definitely. World is ready for it. Just don't squander it because you might. That's the downside. Anyway, I'll stop now. We will pause it there for the moment. I see a food based conversation going on in the background, which is a very, very good sign. Let me know if you guys have any questions or comments before we roll out of here. It's been a wild journey over 2025. We recapped a few kind of notable events. You know what I mean? Maybe there's a few more before we go. Let me know if we missed anything. We had explosion of AI animations. That was kind of one of my top moments, was the bizarreness of, you know, like Whiskers the cat and the sort of AI trend, which, you know, for whatever reason, that's the one that grabbed me this year. You know what I mean? It was a wild year, right, for socio-political upheaval, right, right. We saw assassinations, a few assassinations, some of them very, very recently. A lot of them never even mentioned within the media. We saw a lot of deaths. We give respect to all those that have passed on this year, especially James Rink from our very own, you know, community. So we give respect and love to all those souls that have passed on throughout this year. Um, and then I think we had what other we had a couple really weird predictions. Maybe somebody can remind me of those predictions. Was there anything that you guys really see coming into the collective consciousness in the years in the days ahead? This is your time. Let us know so that you can take awkward, meanerless credit for it later on. I called that, you know what I mean? But no, really, the reason why I say this is because we have a viewership of incredibly tuned in people. But I think just to add kind of to the prediction list over the coming months, I do see a more profound drop, we could say, in the drip disclosure process. You know what I mean? Like the drip drop little piece by piece journey that we've been on. I do think that 2026 brings us into just a whole new cycle of those so-called disclosures, you know, multiple, meaning that it's not like we get one of anything. It's just, you know, like the next level of something. I think everyone sees that. That's really obvious. I think I will mention this because I was going to mention it earlier, but one of my biggest disappointments for 2025, I'm going to be totally honest with you guys. One of my biggest disappointments was Three Eye Atlas. Definitely Three Eye Atlas. But I also want to be totally honest, not that it matters because everyone will just say I'm cynical. But from the moment that thing was announced, I was like, nothing will happen. It's going to come and go. It's going to fly by. And then everyone will focus on a new one and we'll apply all that energy to a new thing. And, there's nothing wrong with that. Although I've been criticized for being cynical about how I kind of state that process. It's literal reality. But for me, I would say Three Eye Atlas was a big disappointment. I was really hoping for, not that I thought it was going to happen, but something like 500 bazillion Draco soldiers, or an instant, what was it, somebody tied it to the currency revaluation as well, wasn't that it? Somehow it even got tied into Nasara and Jasara and like literally everything. Three Eye Atlas this year was an example of how an inanimate, like heavenly object has the ability to work its way into every single element of the so-called zeitgeist, the spirit of the times. Three Eye Atlas wormed its way into every sector. You know what I mean? Even the right wing, like political people on, like YouTube, even people like Tim Pool were talking about it. You know what I mean? It was everywhere, and yet what happened? Right? You know what I mean? Like, nothing, but see, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm not even trying to say that from this mocking perspective. Although at times I do long for people to receive or experience accountability for making very toxic and half-hearted predictory statements. I think that at times I think people should hold them to that and be like, "Hey, bro, you know what I mean? Maybe you know what I mean? You said this, you said that." Because a lot of times people just push, the goalpost farther back. And it's like, okay, don't worry, it's still coming. It's still coming. Trust the plan. You know what I mean? And it's like they just keep pushing the goalpost back, which I think is normal. But as a prediction, I think we're going to see a whole new wave of comet activity, heavenly bodies in 2026. I don't know that they will have the same social impact. I think that's where I think the kind of Three Eye Atlas sort of, popped the cherry, so to speak, for a lot of us, is that like it's not going to be the same. You know what I mean? You don't get another Three Eye Atlas. I don't think it's gonna, it doesn't matter what it is, you know what I mean? Four Eye Atlas, or the other name. I don't think we're gonna get to play that game again with another one. People will be like, "Well, remember what happened last time?" You know what I mean? Kind of like the monoliths, or was it obelisks? I've mentioned this a lot. I think in the mid 2000s there was the wave of art installation obelisks. I think, was it monolith or obelisk? I'm not sure the right term, but you guys will probably remember that, where they were like, "Oh, this thing, it just appeared in the desert. It's like this pillar. It's like this, thing, and it just appeared there. Nobody knows how it got there." And it's like, for people that read energy, you'll see it in half a second and be like, "Well, yeah, people placed it there, probably, only a few couple of days ago." Literally, you can feel it instantly. I think a lot of us had that experience with Three Eye Atlas, where we heard about it in the news and we felt it, and we listened to all the heralding of its arrival, in popular media. And I think a lot of the, I'll say it, and somebody will get mad at me. I think the real true intuitives, the ones who are not these like performatory, like actors that, just play this role on YouTube. I think real intuitives saw it and felt it and was like, "Cool. Yeah, yeah, man. Isn't that cool? Yeah." And then you just kind of go on because you could tell that it wasn't going to lead to anything. And then it's also hard to watch that, because then you get to watch a community of all these people that, claim to be these, like ascended, powerful people, and they make these wild, outlandish claims, and literally not a single one of them ever comes true. Not a single one. But no one ever says anything. You know what I mean? They don't do just we just go on until the next one. So I think that's really one of the ways in which you can exercise your discernment in the days and weeks to come, as we enter into the cycle of 2026 and we watch new events and new wildness take place. I think you have an ability to look at those things now and really feel the energy of it, and don't listen to what anybody says about it. Please don't, because there's a lot of really influential people right now that have large followings, and their following is not because they're really good at reading energy. It's not because they're taking the pulse of the world and disclosure. Honestly, in many cases, it's because they have really good ability to project their energy outward, which comes from having a lot of energy behind you and a lot of kind of admirers and onlookers in your life. It gives you a momentum with which to propel yourself, which is why you'll see people that were big influencers and disclosure people suddenly begin to degrade at a certain point. They'll start to deteriorate physically in some form. Sorry to name names, but Elena Danon's a good example of it. You can look at her recent videos lately and see the way she's physically deteriorated from, whatever the amount of energy that she's trying to hold on to or sort of squeeze out of the collective consciousness. You know what I mean? You'll see it. It takes its toll on people after a while. And I think what one of the things we'll see in 2026 as we begin a new cycle, because remember it's a 1 year, we're beginning a new cycle, you will see the rise of new versions of that. You know what I mean? The new false figureheads of, contrived cult of personality movements will sort of rise up, and, they'll fill in the power vacuum, left by other notable people, you know what I mean? And you'll sort of watch it go in a new, highly distorted direction. And even within that, you'll sort of notice the bullshit. You'll notice what's real. And I feel like the people that watch this channel will treat it like a movie we all get to live in. You know what I mean? It's like this thing we all get to watch unfold. But um and if you think I'm crazy with what I'm saying, I beg of you, please go back and find all of the coolest disclosure conspiracy influencers and actually look at how many times they told you something was going to happen and how many times it came true. And what's crazy is 9 out of 10 people, I believe, are batting at zero on that, like straight up zero or negative. They're batting in negative averages. Case in point would be Carrie Cassidy, who is, she's like a figurehead, right? She's one of those figureheads in the disclosure conspiracy movements. Been around forever. So, automatically, number one, for those with low discernment, they'll believe what you say because, number one, they've been around forever. Number two, they've been on everyone's show. Number three, they say such outlandish things that no one ever holds them to accountability. And I think when you look at people like that, you will notice very quickly that nothing they ever say can ever be tied to something taking place in actual reality. It'll be an altered version of it. It'll be a secret version of it. It'll be, here's the real truth version of it. But you'll never actually see it play itself out in the way that they tell you it does. And I think one of the things we're going to be looking at as we enter a new cycle, and, because it is a 1 year, and not that it's that big of a deal, but you're going to see new versions of that, new versions of those old guard figureheads that really just kind of propagate a similar amount of propaganda that we would see from like mainstream news. It's in the starseed disclosure realm, so they don't call it propaganda. You know, they call it channeling, right? You know what I mean? It's not propaganda. I'm just channeling. You know what I mean? There's no propaganda. Yeah, right. You know what I mean? It's like we're entering the collective stage of, I would say, the time in which the blinders come off. Like everyone had that experience. Those of us that were around in the days of Corey Good and like David Wilcock, when they were for a very short time the so-called pinnacles of, disclosure. And it's hilarious because I would say David Wilcock is one of the most perfect studies of a person who prophesied many things and not a single one ever came true, ever. You know what I mean? Like not even one. I'll be real. I put him in the same category as Carrie Cassidy. I think there's an equal amount of delusion. I guess when I look at what we would call a so-called New Year's resolution, and I'm curious of this before we go. We've got about 8 minutes left on our live stream before the Galactic Alliance shuts us off mandatorily. They just come in and pull the plug after a while. But do you have a New Year's resolution? Is there a thing that you're planning on doing more of? And I know New Year's resolutions are cheesy and lame, right? It's just like nothing changes at midnight. You're right. Nothing does. But because we're playing the human game on third to fourth density Earth, do you have a plan for the year ahead? Is there something that you want to embrace? I can tell you one thing. There is one thing for me. It's been a theme that I have been really, really like dedicatedly noticing in my life over the past few months. And it's weird because I really mean it. When I say I have been dedicated to uncovering this, I really mean it. And that is removing delusion. Removing delusion from my mind, removing delusion from my heart, and removing delusional people from my life, removing delusional outlooks and delusional kind of social groups from my life, like literally stepping away from the amount of delusion that I believe is just absolutely drowning the so-called disclosure, starseed, whatever cheesy new age label you want to add to it community. I would say during 2025, when I looked at the collective themes of what I could no longer stand, which I think it's wise to look at that. What can I no longer tolerate in my life? I can't take it anymore. And I think one of those things was the reliance upon collective delusion of where it's like, I have a memory, therefore it is true. I remember you from my memory, therefore you are also true. You know what I mean? That type of delusional thinking, I think I have absolutely no more interest in my life. That type of like, everything is a space war, everything is everything's a targeting attack by negative entities. Those are things that I really choose to leave behind at this stage of the journey, because once again, just like we were talking about with other things, people that will really learn to look at the energy of certain situations, it's a hard one, it's a bitter pill to swallow. Honestly, it's a bitter pill to swallow for personal accountability when you really learn to read the energy of yourself and others and feel what truly is. Why is it a bitter pill? Because you inevitably realize so many of the things that you thought was the outside world projecting itself or punishing you or targeting you or attacking you or trying to take you out. What you inevitably realize that nearly all of that, not all of it, but a vast majority, was our own doing and our own metastasized emotions and our own faulty outlooks and our own maladaptive behavioral responses to long running cycles of trauma in our life. And it's ultimately one of those things where it's like you inevitably realize we're doing so much of this to ourselves. But then it's hard because you will exist amongst a community of people who have very little ability to introspect on that level, and they cannot take personal responsibility for it. So when I say I'm leaving behind delusion in 2026, my intention is to leave behind that type of like, it's not me, it's targeting, it's the world. You know what I mean? It's like things change when you take personal responsibility for every single experience that you have, that you go through in this life, good, bad, right, or wrong. I think that is one outlook that I've strived to maintain since I began this journey. And I know for people that have paid attention to my words over time, you've heard me say this. I am responsible. I am responsible for everything that takes place. It's like, I think that when we really take that approach in our life, you realize that you also have a responsibility to rid yourself of delusional thinking. And to me, anyway, that's one of my big goals. Releasing delusion. Let's see if anybody else has anything. Oh, thank you, Selena. What you're describing was the biggest thing I learned too in 2025. And I think, most importantly, we have to, or me, I choose to apply that to myself. Where am I delusional? Where am I in this dreaming cycle of thinking it's this and it's actually that? And turns out it's actually just me. And it's like, I mean, that's a bitter pill, man. No one wants to go to that extent. Why take personal responsibility for something when it can be vague targeting, you know? Then you don't have to do anything, right? Tiffany says, "This year I worked on seeing myself." Oh, nice. Okay, this is good. This year I worked on seeing myself in everyone with an open heart, even if people weren't nice. I'm hoping to become more patient. Honestly, that's a beautiful and appropriate thing to kind of bring up. I yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, good job. I pray that you can carry that forward. I would say that has also been in some form, I would say a focus for me in sort of, as I learn to edit myself and grow over the years. I think one of the things I'm trying not to do so much right now is, cast doubt upon other people's versions of reality, even if I can feel it and tell that it's absolutely and completely false. You know what I mean? It's like you just let them go. Just, okay, yes, 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 you are. And you know what? You're probably one of the 144,000 light workers too, aren't you? I'll bet you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you little light worker. Get out of here. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta just let them go, man. Which is, there's really nothing wrong with that, right? Anyway. Oh, here's a good behavioral based one. What's up, LVC7313? I'm gonna give carnivore diet a go. Honestly, I am not on a carnivore diet because, well, there's a good reason, because I have weird gallbladder. It's a little weird, which could sometimes affect that. But I honestly think that for a lot of people, it's a very, very good way of resetting the gut and doing a bit of body recomposition in the process, letting go of visceral fat within the body. I think you will notice that, you'll kind of lose weight if you really apply yourself to the carnivore diet. You'll sort of lose weight without even trying. And I would say there's always a couple downsides to it, but to me, I think it's wise. I pray that it works for you. I'd say go for it, man. Absolutely. Anchor Haven says, "I will travel internationally this year." Hell yeah. I pray that you do as well. I pray that I will. There it went. The last drop of water at 3 hours. I pray that I will as well. Seriously. Seriously. I've only been to one other country than the United States in this life. For those of you in intelligence agencies that are profiling me, I've only been to one other foreign country, and that is Mexico. So there's a lot of world traveling that still needs to take place in my timeline. So I pray that you make it. Maybe you will come to the US this year, Anchor, or in 2026, Anchor Haven. That would be cool, right? It's just, let's all meet in Mexico. Honestly, I love Mexico, but it's the only other country I've been to, so I have a very limited basis for comparison. But there was a period of time where I actually went to Mexico every few days. For real. Literally, I would go multiple times a week, over and over and over again. Some real psychics will instantly know why. They'll be like, "What?" But anyway, yeah, yeah, no, I was very well, I think it's because I grew up in San Diego, California, which is, literally at the border. I would say for many years in my life, I could walk outside my house and look down to the south, and you could see Mexico. You could see it just chilling over there on the hills behind you, you know. But that's as far as I made it. She says, "Let's meet at the pyramids." I would love to. I would love to do that. Nora wants to travel in the coming year as well. It's been a thing that we organically started talking about not too long ago, so it just might take place. Missing time says Matthew's a coyote. I wish I was. And you probably mean by coyote like one of those people, but no, I mean like a literal coyote. I wish I was a coyote. Um, but honestly, I'll tell you why. Because I've lived in a lot of areas with wild coyotes over the years, and they're sort of hunting calls, and they're just the amount of vocalizations that they do, and just their wild behavior to me is so fascinating. As a kid, I lived in a lot of rural areas in Southern California, and there's tons of coyotes out there, and you would hear them every night, like hunting and like yelping, and like you can hear them like the hunt start up, and all the coyotes are like yelping and going wild over something, and like it's like this cacophony going crazy, and then all of a sudden, and then it stops. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, what happened? You know what I mean? Coyotes are fascinating. They're so cool. They're so cool. Also, I would say from a spiritual and multidimensional perspective as well, and from I would say from a spiritual perspective, they're definitely not all good. They are not us. They are not what we would call an animal totem that brings s- specific goodness. I mean, they certainly can, but they're tricksters. They're just wily. They're able to survive in extreme like conditions. They're always lurking somewhere. And anyway, you can tell I have a thing with coyotes, so I'll shut up now. But anyway, they're very cool. A meetup would be awesome. You know what? That's funny because Honora and I were talking about that. What would happen if we did a meetup for the people within our channel and our community? Well, the truth is, we actually did one in 2021 for all the people that had been a part of our first two intuitive training group experiences, and we did actually do that. We had a house out in Florida at the time that we were staying at, and we had it was something like 10 people. We came over and did a bunch of stuff, and it's funny. It was like a precursor to a lot of the super cool star seed retreats that I see now. I'm like, huh, that's funny. We were doing that before that was cool, but whatever. You know what I mean? And then, of course, just like everything else in my life, I was like, okay, now that I did that, I'm over it. I'm done. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'll instantly, yeah, instantly like, reject it afterward. But we might. Maybe we will do a meetup for this group, and then we'll end up heading down to Antarctica. And just like at every conference we go to, there's always one people or one person that doesn't come back. There's a mystery that will occur and something crazy will happen, but we don't know. We don't know what that is, but we'll be finding out together. That's our goal, 2027 Antarctica experience. Shit, man, you never know. That could actually happen. In the meantime, we have officially passed our 3-hour mark, which means this video will only get recommended to probably like 10 or 15 people on the entirety of YouTube. But it doesn't matter because it's been really fun hanging out with you guys. I want to thank everyone that's been with us for the entirety of this broadcast. Those of you that came in and came out, those of you guys that received readings, and also those of you guys that didn't. You can always find me at rememberyourmission.com. In fact, this is a very good time of year for where people will come in and get like future forecasting or what. One of the things it's already starting. It starts every year, like right at the end of the year. People come in and we will just look at like what does each month have in store for me, and not from the perspective of astrological kind of charting, but really from the perspective of momentum within the body and where we're being led and the types of emotions that one might experience, or the feelings that one might have to contend with at certain times of the year. It's one thing I really do enjoy doing, is taking that sort of that periodic yearly focus. So if you're one of those people that wants to engage in a very unique type of yearly forecasting, you can check us out at rememberyourmission.com. If you want to be guaranteed to get a reading, we'll be meeting second week of the month on Patreon. And then lastly, very last thing, next Wednesday we'll be back to the world of book reading. We we shall return, and it will continue. And let me tell you, we got a long way to go on the book reading. So we'll be back in exactly 1 week. In the meantime, you guys, if you've not subscribed, please do so. Although most people that here have already subscribed. So you can help me by subscribing to this, hitting the like button if you have not already done so. And for everyone that's been hanging out, good job. You made it a long way this year. You dealt with a lot of difficulty. You turned a lot of corners. You survived things that other versions of you might not have survived. You know what I mean? You made decisions and chose to begin processes of change that other people in this world can't even begin to imagine doing. And each of us knows what they are in our own way. Each of us knows what we had to contend with. Each of us knows what our darkest moments were. And, we also can remember the times when they were good. And I think this year has been a wild journey in both, amazing things and incredibly difficult things. And I guess when I look back at like the overall kind of message or the feeling that is left behind with me at the end of 2025, when I look at everything that we've been through as a collective, as a person, I can tell you that I am honestly deeply, deeply grateful to be here on earth with everyone. Absolutely. And if you're one of the people that's hearing my voice, thank you for being a part of my strange movie life in 2025. I pray that we have many, many more to go. And anyway, that's it for now, you guys. Thanks for hanging out. And you never know what's going to happen next. So